From entertainment to tech. The latest from the tech stable is artificial intelligence, or AI, and it is transforming businesses and lives, redefining the future. This synergy is creating new frontiers of disruption, driving innovation, and unlocking unprecedented opportunities.
There is great promise in the benefits of artificial intelligence, as has been made clear over the last few sessions as well. Estimates suggest that it could raise global GDP by 7% just over the next decade. While some fear it will cannibalize our jobs, celebrate it or fear it, AI is the conversation of the moment. And to talk to us, we have Nikki Parmar, Dr. Rohini Srivatsa, and Saurabh Sadhu, along with Tanima Biswas joining us next.
Hello once again. Hello once again. I know we are following up on a very power-packed session, but I assure you this next session is going to be power-packed as well because it's on a topic which we just can't afford to ignore. This is on artificial intelligence and what lies ahead in that field. And we have some of the best voices on stage here to talk about that. So just a short introduction for those of you who are present over here. And artificial intelligence is leading the charge in innovation and transformative changes across various sectors in India. We are witnessing a remarkable surge in artificial intelligence development with both homegrown startups and established companies leveraging this technology to tackle unique challenges, boost productivity, and streamline processes. From revolutionizing agriculture through precision farming to enhancing healthcare with predictive analytics, the scope of AI is vast and profoundly impactful. Indian talent is, of course, at the heart of innovations being rolled out by big tech companies. They are the innovators and tailors behind the solutions that big tech is stitching together for the world. In this session, we will be focusing on the incredible strides which have been made in the field of AI and also talk about the potential as well as the challenges that lie ahead. Let me introduce my guests on stage right now. I'm joined by Nikki Parmar, who's the co-founder of Essential AI. Dr. Rohini Srivatsa, Chief Technology Officer for Microsoft India and South Asia. And Saurabh Kumar Sahu, Managing Director and Lead of the India business at Accenture. Thank you all for making time today. But I want to begin with opening remarks from all of you about the pace of artificial intelligence development, not just in India, but across the world. And also your views on AI being developed for India by Indians. Nikki, starting with you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. So I've been working in AI since around 2015. So it's been around 9 to 10 years. And my journey started where pretty much like AI, and especially like generative AI, which is popular with ChatGPT and Cloud AI, was pretty much in an experimental phase and an R&D phase. So, we've come a long way. I had spent 6.5 years at Google Brain, and then, started my company. And it's been remarkable to see, how we've been able to push the frontier of this technology where now, it's generally like if you think about the pace of innovation, if you think about how technology develops, today we have these models, today we have AI, where a single model, a single general model understands, a lot of things about the world. It can help you with your writing, with your coding. It can solve so many different tasks for you. Very rarely we've seen, general phenomena that, scale so well with better models, with more data. And so I feel like we're still at the cusp of even understanding all the things that these models can do. And where it is heading is that, we're seeing that not only, we can just use this one single model for many, many different applications and tasks, but now in the future, they will also, be learning from users itself. They'll have their own kind of self-learning loops where we just have to show maybe like a few examples of doing a new task, or maybe soon in the future, they'll also help us, with innovations and discoveries, and lead us to new scientific discoveries, which is very, very exciting.
You know, you were telling me that you're a big fan of science fiction movies. Before I take that question to the others, is there anything that is lying up ahead that you've also seen and you feel that that's something which we've seen in the movies already and now it's coming to a reality for people to actually access that kind of technology?
Yeah, that's obviously in the movies, it's a lot more extreme. And, we were hearing about, the previous session of, how they are sometimes a reflection of what is happening, but also it helps to kind of paint the picture forward. I feel like there's a whole bunch happening in just being able to make our lives very productive and, just have these little your own Jarvis or your little digital assistant that will learn from you, your personality will adapt to you. And just in the background help out with everything that that you want and you need. And obviously, there's a lot more of the extreme stuff, right? Obviously, self-driving is pretty much a reality where I'm from in San Francisco. There's also humanoid robots that are in active development. So soon we might see them, in our homes as a companion, helping us out in our everyday tasks, not just physically, digitally as well. So yeah, a lot of this stuff that we might see in a Black Mirror episode is definitely coming to life.
Might be a part of our reality soon. Dr. Srivats, if you can also weigh in on this. AI for India by Indians. What's your view on that? Are we making progress at a pace where we would like to be?
Yeah, first I would like to say I think AI is definitely, as Nikki pointed out, at a very, very huge paradigm shift in the way in which technology is moving. And I think for India, this is once in a generation time opportunity for really inclusive and sustainable growth. I'll give you a few examples. So we all know that ChatGPT moment happened in November of 2022. Just a few weeks later, our CEO was in India, and we showed him a demo of a farmer being able to ask about the PM Kisan Yojana, what he was eligible for, in his language using voice. Now, something like that would have been impossible just a few weeks ago. But what I want to point out is the agility and speed at which that innovation could happen, and the kind of access and the kind of inclusion it can enable. That's just an example. So short point here is that for India, this is, whether it's Indian startups, it's the India AI mission, the government, all of our IT companies, it's once in a generation time to really adopt AI, because there are capabilities such as language, such as ability to engage with technology, engage with information in a very natural interface that was not possible earlier. And the examples can go on and on. We just had, a couple of days back, a co-pilot for a teacher. It's called a Shiksha co-pilot that we had been working on with an NGO in Karnataka, and now is going to a larger audience. That allows a teacher in a government school to create a lesson plan for their students. In government schools, typically you have children from different ages in the same classroom, and they may have different skill levels. So teachers are very pressured to be able to create a lesson plans that's both relevant, interesting, adaptive. And they both content as well as time limit. This allows a teacher in Kannada to prepare a lesson plan for their students that is tailored to that particular student's interests. That was impossible earlier. So you can go sector after sector. The kind of things that are possible today with AI and the kind of accessibility that can be enabled for inclusive growth is a potential for India that's absolutely remarkable and unprecedented.
Mr. Sahu, your opening thoughts on this?
Great. I think on the first question on the pace of AI. So we are following an act after Kareena Kapoor Khan, and you asked a question on movies. So Sholay is my favorite movie. It doesn't need much of AI to watch it. But James Cameron, when he conceptualized Avatar, he had to wait 10 years for the technology and the AI to be ready to actually make the movie. Now we are in a world where it is the reverse. I think AI is growing faster than what it can be put to use at. right? So there is a lot of technology, and the pace of technology is immense. We have to figure out ways in terms of how it can be used much more beneficially for us, and like as ma'am also pointed out, in terms of social inclusion. So I think that's one clear point. I don't think we need to be worried about the pace of AI movement or technology. I think it's about finding all the right use cases and using it for in general overall benefit of humanity. The second point about AI for Indians, for India and by Indians. So I think I have been a big, and thank you for the question, because I have been a very, very big advocate of this thought that we are all, as India, with the computer revolution that happened and later on digital revolution that happened, we have always been the cradle of talent, right? So India has always been seen as make in India, make from India, or AI by India, AI from India. I think the time has now come to be for AI for India, which is how do you improve the consumption of AI within our country, right? And I said this in some other forums as well. AI for me, frankly, means Atmanirbhar India. Right? So how do you, and I think a big component of for us to be Atmanirbhar India has to be AI-led. It has to be used for convenience, for more creativity, for making life simpler and easier. Right? And take simple examples. Where do you all see AI today for? How many of you use Swiggy or Zomato? Almost everybody uses Swiggy and Zomato, right? The customer service today, if you have to complain about something on your order, is completely AI-enabled, isn't it? You hardly get to talk to or need to talk to a human agent anymore there, right? So it's essentially about how simplified the entire process has become and convenient for people to use it. Look at banking, right? So even from enterprise users of making banking less fraud prevalent, as well as the users today, huge amount of AI is being there. But I think the moot point is, how do you make AI responsible? How do we use it for larger social inclusion? Because today also there are still a set of certain sections of the society who need to be trained and educated better of using of AI, and that's how essentially we will progress.
Right. AI is also known for predictive analytics. So I want to actually ask a question in connection to that. What do you predict as the next big sector where we will see a lot of disruption led by artificial intelligence?
Yeah, so maybe I can start with where we're seeing like the biggest impact today and where I think it's going to go in the next few years. So today, I would say that coding is one of the sectors where we're seeing a lot of application of AI. But I think there's a more fundamental there's a more fundamental view to this where there's things where it's easy for the model to learn. They're boring. They're repetitive. So something that we might call like grunt work, et cetera, et cetera. That is definitely being impacted by AI today. There's a lot of like writing and coding applications that are being affected by AI. But where it's going to go next is in being able to like learn from the users itself. So we have so many different experts, right? Like everyone from like a teacher to someone in the banking domain to someone who's building software. We will have a phenomena where the models start learning from the experts themselves, knowing the nuances, knowing the gotchas, knowing, getting those kind of expert skills that will help it, make decisions and get insights as an expert would. Similarly, if you think about, scientists themselves, like, in biology, in education and teaching, imagine where the models themselves become the experts. Now, not only can they do the work, that the humans are themselves doing and do them probably more efficiently, now they can also now start upskilling, a larger force. They can impart those skills to people who don't have them, and through the interaction of language. Maybe you don't even have to spend that many years learning a new skill. The barrier will be lower in being able to, for us to also, get more deeper understanding, get deeper insight into being able to push the frontier. So I feel like that's going to be very interesting to see how it ends up taking shape, where I believe that in the future, everyone, will be like a domain expert in something, and it'll become easier to become that using AI. And a lot of it is going to happen through the user interaction with the models. Okay. It's going to happen through AI figuring out how to improve themselves, right? Mm-hmm. Today they can't be like, learning themselves. Mm-hmm. So that is still like an open research question. But a lot of that, I think, will start taking shape.
We'll start seeing that soon. Dr. Srivatsa, if I can ask you this, which are the sectors do you think that we are going to see AI-led disruption in the near future or immediate future?
I think, look, every single sector will have AI that will change the way in which you service customers, the way in which you work, the way in which you run processes, and the way in which new products, et cetera, are designed. But I think there are some sectors where the ability for AI to do things that were impossible earlier are of personal interest to me, right? Because we all get excited about certain sectors. I think healthcare, education are two where you will see AI being able to do things that were not possible earlier. So I'll give you an example in healthcare to the point Nikki was making. It's impossible for a doctor and any medical professional today to keep up with the latest that's happening in a particular disease front or any particular specialization across the world. Now imagine that doctor having an AI assistant that is able to look through what kind of disease symptoms, what kind of very unique cases are happening. Imagine a very specialized case in child cardiology or something, right? That AI's ability to tell what was latest happened in the world in that space, what was tried, what worked, what didn't work, really be that AI assistant to the doctor is something that could not have been done earlier, and that is possible today. So I think to me, today meaning that will be increasingly become possible, right? Similarly, if you look into areas around elderly care, a lot of things that's happening in the area of ambient intelligence, in being able to look at sensors and being able to have intelligence in the room or intelligence in their environment and help them live better lives. That is another area for elderly care. Then to the point also Nikki raised, that the way in which AI is changing how research is done, whether it's in the form of looking at molecules and synthesizing molecules with a particular kind of characteristic, being able to simulate them faster through emulation, that whole area of AI for R&D is another. So I gave you 3 examples why I think healthcare is probably one area where AI will do things that were earlier impossible. Now they may just be difficult. The other one is education. Imagine having every child, whether the child has got learning disabilities or whether the child has got language, different languages that in fact, I think AI will make India really celebrate our diversity in languages. Because no longer should everybody learn English to have access to both opportunities and information. So I think those are 2 sectors. I just feel that we will see things happen that were impossible earlier and with the broadest sense of economic impact and potential and unlock of human potential.
Right. Saurabh, although I want to hear your views on this subject as well, but let me ask you the most germane question that we want to address in this session. That while we have seen a lot of Indians or people of Indian origin who are heading or at the center of AI development in all the big tech companies as well, but we haven't seen the kind of innovation, like let's say a ChatGPT was not launched in India. What do you think do we need to do to reach that level, or why hasn't it happened yet in the country?
Interesting one, actually. I think AI for India will solve a lot of it. But let's look at, I'm hoping, Nikki, you will do something which will answer this question very soon. But so let's look at it as to what enables people to become inventors or creators, right? And ultimately, it has to be ingrained in the entire education system of the country. So at the end of the day, like the way we inculcated computers and computer science into our education institutions as a part of our overall education policy, as it became mainstream for people to choose and excel in that particular subject, I think the time has to therefore come to have AI, analytics, digital, and various such technologies, emerging technologies, as a part of mainstream education system of our country. I think that's one fundamental aspect which will be required. The second thing is the freedom of expression of experimentation, right? So I think allowing people that it is okay to fail. When you do certain things here, a lot of the growth that happens outside of India is also cushioned against certain budgets or investments which have been made well forward. That is, you say, okay, go for this. Even if it fails, it's okay. We'll try again, and so on and so forth. That's what typically inventors are created. So I think that kind of, I would say, support system. And for this, private institutions, educational institutions, the government of the country, corporate institutions, all have to come together to create an ecosystem, and hopefully it should happen soon, wherein you eliminate the fear of failure of people and allow them to experiment. Already the AI platforms are created. People can experiment a lot, whether it is ChatGPT or various other technologies are coming in, and hopefully that will create something really strong for us. Lastly, I think the startup ecosystem of the country, right? And we've seen a huge surge in terms of the way startups are created and many of them achieving unicorn status, etc. I think one of the markers of success of the startup should also be in terms of the kind of disruptive or innovative use case that they can create, more than the unicorn valuations or on the aspects of it. Because, as I keep repeating this fact, 60% of the jobs that we have today were not thought of or estimated in 1960. So in just about 40 odd years, right, we have created more than 60% of the jobs which did not exist then. So if you allow people to start experimenting, creating many things, right, over a period of time, you will see some of those will achieve scale. And then we will probably have many more of the new inventions coming in for India.
We'll come back on the point of education that you raised. I want to ask you more on that. But Dr. Srivatsa, your thoughts also as to why haven't we got our ChatGPT moment in India yet?
Yeah, I think we should really think deeply about India's need and where AI can make a real economic and social impact for India. So to answer your question particularly, there is work happening in India which is creating Indic foundation models. Some of that work is also happening. But I think the more important part, which I'm very, very bullish about the India's startup ecosystem, is being able to take the platforms and solve real problems, and solve them at scale, solve them in a way that is meaningful. See, India has this entire infrastructure that we have created for the last 15 years, which is unique for the world, which is the digital public infrastructure, what we all use every day, the Aadhaar and UPI, et cetera, and the data infrastructure. That is creating the rails and roads for the digital rails and roads, and creating the data in the country to unlock use cases that you will not find anywhere in the world. Whether it is in the area of financial inclusion, whether it is in the area of health, whether it is climate, clean tech, all of these areas, the ability for Indian entrepreneurs to leverage those public infrastructure to build on top of them, and you name any sector, mobility, commerce, that is what will create the value for India. And in fact, something that Nandan Nilekani talks about is DPI to the power of AI, right? AI will really exponentially impact what DPIs have been for the country.
Nikki, I want your thoughts also on this, but in a very different manner. We probably want talent like you back in the country or working in India as well. Are we going to see that soon?
Yeah, I think one point I wanted to make, to what ma'am and sir said, is that I think there are two approaches of building. One can be problem first, the other can be technology first. And a lot of what ma'am spoke was about like the problem first way of building. But I do think what we've seen with AI is more a technology first initiative where people have been pushing on the R&D, without like a real application for decades. The Nobel Prize in Physics, Professor Geoffrey Hinton, who used to be at Google as well, he was pushing on some of these techniques and methods in the 80s and 90s. So it's taken us that long to see the light of the day and actually have this kind of large-scale impact with that technology. So I do think there's a lot of merit and a lot of probably also need in having a long-term view. And actually also doing the investments where sometimes you're not clear what is the exact problem that you're solving, or you don't know when it'll reach the user, but you have to keep pushing on the R&D, on the research and development. And I think that requires a certain kind of setup, which does happen in academia, but sometimes you need to get the right resources, the infrastructure, the compute, and the people almost like in a room together. And we've seen that happen again and again. It happened in Bell Labs before. It's happened at Google. It's happened in a bunch of places. So I do feel there's a lot of credit to also having a technology-first initiative, which I do think will also be important in the future. I think we're not anywhere close to how much more these models can advance. There's many more open research questions. And even though we'll see some applications, I do think that form factor will change a lot. I think it's what we're trying to fit to what the model's capabilities are today. But if the capabilities itself are orders of magnitude more, the applications will look different. The interaction mechanism will look different. So, and I think now getting to your question, I'm also very personally interested to find a way back to India and figure out if there is a way to make something more foundational happen. But I do think it requires this kind of research and innovation lab where you have the compute, where compute is a big piece of it, right? You have the people. And then obviously you then play to the strengths, right? Maybe you have some strengths on the data aspects. You have some strengths in what people's talents already are, what they're already good at. And also the problem space itself can motivate a lot of the research. So 100%, we should play to our strengths, but also develop, this kind of almost like a foundational and a research-driven lab that can figure out the capabilities of tomorrow, the ChatGPT of tomorrow.
Right. Okay. So unfortunately, I'm being told that we have to, these are the last few comments that we can take, but a very important question that I want to ask from all of you from different perspective, of course, but this question about ethics and, with any emerging technology, these questions will arise. So starting with you, actually, before I go across to Rohini and Saurabh, anything, because you're so deeply involved in the development of AI, anything that keeps you up at night when it comes to ethics, ethical use of artificial intelligence, and where do you stand in terms on the debate of regulation in any emerging technology?
Yeah, I would say that with any powerful technology, and especially the one that we have today, it is not clear, all the things that it can do, and especially once it becomes in a place where the AI can start improving itself. Definitely, I think we ourselves cannot imagine all the ways in which people will utilize it. So I do think that there are a lot of good scopes of having a dialogue, understanding what regulation should mean here, what does use of AI mean. And I would also say from a research perspective, there's very active areas of research and thinking about how do we align models to act in humans' best interests. And obviously, that's kind of easy to state, but very hard to execute and implement. So you do need, experts from maybe, different areas, from people who can help with, the policy setting, the regulation setting, and obviously the researchers and the people who are using these models itself to figure out what is usage of this look like and how do we deploy it. I think like any technology, there's going to be many, many benefits, and I do believe at least in the next few years, 4 to 5 years, the benefits will outweigh the cons. So I think we have to wholeheartedly adopt it. But think about the deployment of it and how people will use it day to day very carefully.
Right, Dr. Srivatsa and Saurabh, from both of you, how do you think companies can manage or avoid misuse of AI while developing the technology?
Look, we've been talking about the transformative power of AI, I think the ability for us to leverage AI will only be if you're able to trust it. So the whole idea of trustworthy AI is a topic that companies like Microsoft have been investing for quite a long time. And trust comes in at least 3 pillars: security, privacy, and safety. And I think the journey is not something, it's a long journey, and we've been at it for many, many years, since 2016. And I think that ability to have an approach that is taking principles but making sure that you have the tools, techniques, standards, and governance approaches to ensure that you can innovate with AI with confidence, knowing that the platform and the guardrails you have put in place are there to ensure that they are human aligned, to the point Nikki was making. I think that is what we are seeing organizations that are going in and saying, embracing AI for innovation and growth in a big way, ensuring that they are putting in the guardrails, the thinking, the governance, the risk management frameworks to look at AI from a trust perspective.
Right. Final words from you on this. Do you think we need more regulation going forward?
Well, yes, for sure. I think for any technology to succeed, it has to be well regulated and therefore put to the right use. I think quickly, in the interest of time, 3-4 quick points. I think firstly is responsible AI or ethical deployment of AI is now a necessity and not a choice. Accenture, for example, has taken a lead in terms of appointing not just a chief AI officer, we have a chief responsible AI officer as well, okay, who looks at essentially how and advising firms and companies in terms of how AI should be used. 15 to 20% of the budgets that typically companies use for AI are earmarked for responsible AI usage. What are the right frameworks, guardrails, platforms that should be put together so that monitoring of the right use of AI is therefore very critical. And a few days back, I was there at the India Mobile Congress in a CEO roundtable, and we had Mr. Scindia, kind of talk to us about various technologies on 5G and various other technologies for emerging India. And even the government of India has taken notice in terms of the responsible and ethical use of AI, and the India AI Mission and other areas are working on ways and means to lay out the right framework around it. So I think very clearly the awareness has been created. It's a matter of, it's very simple. If AI is developed, it's put to use, you don't use it well, any which ways you're not going to get appreciation about it. Even ChatGPT, when it was launched and people used it, when the hallucinations started coming in, you had quite a few people who lost a bit of touch in terms of saying, okay, not everything is right there. Then people start to work in terms of getting it right. So it's inevitable, therefore.
Right, right. I have a lot more questions for all three of you, actually, but unfortunately, for lack of time, we'll probably take it to the next room.
The rest, the AI will answer the questions.
Thank you so much for joining us on this very
Likewise.
insightful panel. Thanks.
Well, India's e-commerce landscape has grown significantly over the past decade, after the pandemic especially, completely changing the way we actually shop.
Well, in fact, emerging technologies, shifting consumer behavior, and innovative business models, they are shaping the sector's next chapter. But how are businesses adapting them? To find the answers, let us please welcome on stage Mr. Sudhakar Adapa and NDTV's Suchetna Ray.
Hello and welcome. I have with me Mr. Sudhakar Adapa, founder and CEO, BIA Brands. A Harvard and IIM alumni, Sudhakar is a serial entrepreneur, running a diverse range of companies in sectors such as F&B, beauty and personal care, media and human resources across India, US, and the Middle East. Today, we will talk about the new shopper. As shoppers, we Indians have always been value conscious. We now seek customization, we prioritize sustainability. While we shop online, above all, we want a very seamless digital experience. So in effect, we are talking about the future of e-commerce in India, and who better than Mr. Sudhakar Adapa to dissect that for us. Thank you very much for joining us, Sudhakar. My first question to you will be about Q-commerce, quick commerce. It has been in the air for a very long time. There's been a lot of conversation in this summit itself about it. Do you think that quick commerce will be the death of e-commerce?
Well, e-commerce is thriving these days. And quick commerce, as you call it, Q-commerce, is probably the newer version of e-commerce there. If you look at the fundamentals of business there, the fundamentals of business are going to will remain the same. It is just that the way we deliver things are going to change. Now, quick commerce, is it going to be a sustainable thing? I would say yes and a no. Yes, because it is another form of commerce which will survive. But I think what I really think is that the definition of quick will change. Mm-hmm. Now, right now, the expectations of the consumer is that they are expecting everything to be delivered under 10 minutes. And if you say 20 minutes for a consumer, he's going to say, no, I can't wait for 10 more minutes out there. But the only thing is that if you want to deliver everything in 10 minutes, under 10 minutes there are certain categories like groceries and certain products where you can deliver in 10 minutes time, because India as a country is a very kind of a huge country where the density of the population is huge, which actually makes it, which makes actually India one of the few countries where quick commerce actually worked.
Right.
But I think it's going to be like the categories that you can do in quick commerce are going to be few and far in between. But majority of the categories, I think the definition of quick will change from 10 minutes to probably over 60 minutes or so, because not everything could be delivered in 10 minutes time. Is there a use case for quick commerce? Yes, there is a use case for quick commerce. But do you want everything under 10 minutes? I would say no. Can these companies deliver it sustainably? The unit economics are going to work out? I really don't think so. But I think things will change.
So quick commerce will become not so quick commerce.
If it has to be sustainable, I would say yes.
Right. We've seen the impact that social media, the rise of social media has had on marketing of brands, especially we've seen its impact on the rise of private brands in India. What do you have to say about that?
Well, social media, the influence of social media is all pervasive across all the sectors, and businesses are not an exception there. So the kind of influencer marketing and the influence of social media has risen phenomenally these days. These days, every celebrity is an influencer, every influencer is a celebrity. So I think as brands, if we have to survive, I think social media has become a potent weapon. And one of the advantages of private labels is that, it is actually providing a level playing field for smaller brands to actually compete with the Unilevers and P&Gs of the world. Now, if for example, if I have to launch a brand 10 years ago, right? Now, if I'm launching I own a cosmetics company, right? So if I have to launch a cosmetics brand, right? You need to own a plant, you need to formulate yourself, you need to have a manufacturing plant, you need to have a quality control department, you need to control R&D, you need to take it. The whole ecosystem there, it is huge capital cost, and it is not feasible for a small entrepreneur to launch a company there. Now today, if you want to launch a beauty brand or a cosmetics brand, I hate it as a founder of a cosmetics company, but it's all it takes is probably you can go to a contract manufacturer there, make some sampling, get some 1,000 pieces up, put it on online on Amazon or Flipkart or Nykaa, whatever is that, and boom, you have a brand.
Yes.
Right. It's become so easy these days.
True. What kind of disruptions do you see going forward as far as these private labels are concerned? Because you have social media aiding them. And as you just mentioned, that putting it all together is so much more easier. Every other person with the right capital can become an entrepreneur.
I think like everything has its own advantage and disadvantage. The advantage is that you could build a company with no capital. If you have a great product, you could build a company with almost next to nothing in terms of capital there, which is an advantage. The flip side is that the kind of competition that is growing in the market, you go and check at any marketplace, whether it's in Amazon, Flipkart, Nykaa, any other category, there, Zepto or Blinkit, whatever. The kind of brands that are proliferating in the market are humongous, right?
Yes.
So that is aiding in huge competition. The differentiation has become really difficult for us.
Yeah.
But that's the flip side. The positive side is that customers have a choice. They are spoiled for choice. They have great products and at great prices there. So yeah, I think customers are making merry at this point in time, enjoying great discounts.
Right. One conversation that we've been having since yesterday is about local Indian companies or brands, in our case, going global. What kind of role are omni-channels playing in this?
Well, omni-channel, I am a big believer in physical retail. In fact, we at BR Brands, we are one of the few companies, apart from your Unilevers and Procter & Gamble's there, we took a different approach to launching our brand. We have a specialty coffee brand called Brew & Bliss, right? So we've launched it in physical retail first. On day one, we are there at 1,200 modern trade stores, which is a feat I don't think anyone have achieved in the past few days. The reason for that is that not because I don't believe in the power of digital e-commerce there, but the whole point is that if you look at a category like in F&B, where the margins are are less than 25, 30% there. Now, if you have to give them a platform fee of 30%, add to it the cost of shipping and the cost of doing performance marketing there, I don't think any F&B brand will be able to survive.
Yeah.
And the platforms are like, even if you are 1,000 crore brand or 100 crore, if you're selling, say, 1,000 crores on Amazon or on Flipkart there, your platform fee is not going to change. So which makes it unsustainable and not so viable there.
Right.
On the other hand, I have beauty products where the gross margins are far higher there. I am happy to sell it on Amazon and Flipkart. So I think it's important for an entrepreneur to pick the right channels to kind of do it.
But when you are launching a product, it's easier for startups to go the D2C way because it's perhaps cheaper to launch it digitally. So what do you think? Is D2C the only way to launch your FMCG startup?
Well, I wouldn't say D2C is the only way to do it. But if your capital is scarce, if you're not very confident about how your product is going to do in the market there, I would say a way to go, D2C is the only way to go. But if you have money, it's not for the faint-hearted. It's going to cost you a lot of money, but you can build a great brand physically also. So it pretty much depends on your objective. Do you want to, first try it out in the market and then go physical? It's your choice. But I would say D2C is not the only way to launch your product. I think if you have capital, if you're confident about the product, I would suggest any brand to go physical first.
Right.
No brand has ever been built completely online. You take the example of all the companies, whether it is in whatever sector, you take EdTech, D2C, whatever, all the brands are now physical.
Right. They might have started D2C, but they're all moving to a brick and mortar and D2C mix.
Yeah, D2C doesn't cost you a lot of money.
Yes.
So it's easier to go D2C. But if you want to build a truly scalable brand of value, I think physical retail and omni-channel is the only way to go forward.
Since you mentioned capital, we've seen over the years, despite global money movement, India has remained a sweet spot as far as investments into startups are concerned. What do you think is the impact of that on entrepreneurship in India, as well as on the kind of innovation that we are seeing here?
Well, India is a growing economy. And I think it's better than China because China is a very controlled market there. So I think it's easy for global money to chase markets with the scale as India there. So we've seen a huge influx of capital that is getting into India in the last 10 years as such, right? But the problem what happened is that because of the global liquidity there, the kind of abundance of capital that is available in this country has become like, more startups are dying because of indigestion than on starving.
Right.
So what we've started doing is that we've started, earlier capital is an enabler. You want to do business, you need capital, so you raise funds, right? It's the way. But unfortunately what happened is that now we started using capital as a weapon. What we are doing is that, look, I'm going to raise a fund, which is $100 million. I'm going to pump in money, by deep discounting, by driving out others. It's like a last man stand game, standing game, right? Which unfortunately is driving good businesses out of business. So I think there has to be a sanity in raising capital. We need to understand that and don't stuck in this global liquidity thing. Last year, as early as last year,
yes,
zero interest rates, liquidity is coming in. Everyone are looking at India as a market there. Free capital availability, so people started raising hundreds and hundreds of $1 million. You need to look at it. Does my business need hundreds of $1 million?
Right.
Not every business needs hundreds of millions dollars. There.
Right.
And use it diligently. And I think that's the message that I want to give it to entrepreneurs is that, raising capital, please see it as an enabler. And do not weaponize capital because ultimately it is going to hurt the ecosystem. It is going to hurt the other players. It is going to hurt the smaller players there. To provide a level playing field, I think we need to use capital diligently and with I think there is also a bit of responsibility that is involved in raising capital there. I think we are getting there. Market teaches us a lot of things. Last year there is global liquidity. Everyone is raising funds. Now today, people are asking tough questions. People are asking a lot more, getting into a lot more details than what they were doing earlier now. Now suddenly you see a scarcity there.
Absolutely. Great talking to you, Sudhakar. Great conversations and wonderful phrases you've used. Weaponization of capital and how Q-commerce could be the death of e-commerce. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for taking the time out.
Thank you, Sujata.
Well, women are revolutionizing the business landscape, shattering glass ceilings and redefining the modern workplace. Trailblazers, Mary Bara or Indra Nooyi, Sarah Blakely or Deepali Goenka. These women are driving growth, diversity, and inclusivity with their leadership, innovation, and perseverance.
In fact, pioneering women have proven time and again that gender is no barrier to excellence. They've actually redefined what it means to succeed, demonstrating that strength and compassion can coexist beautifully. Let's now invite on stage Deepali Goenka for a conversation with NDTV's Tamanna Inamdar.
Welcome, Deepali. It's a pleasure to speak with you at the NDTV World Summit. And I think this is the absolute apt conversation, not just for the topic of the session, but in the context of what we're celebrating today at the World Summit, the India Century. But let me begin by saying, even though the topic of the conversation is women in business redefining the workplace, in a sense, it's a bit passé. Because women in the workplace is no longer new. When I speak to Deepali Goenka today, I see a powerhouse, a business leader in her right, like any other member of the business community. So let me start by asking you a question about how you, as a business leader, look at the Indian economy today in the context of our conversation of Indian companies dominating what we hope will be India's century.
First of all, thank you, Tamanna. Thank you, NDTV World, for inviting me today. For one of the most, I love this conversation about women and in leadership. So when we talk about India, let me give you a perspective. You know, when we launched first of our plants in 1993, I remember the time when India was just opening up the license Raj. They couldn't even imagine that we could make towels. They said, oh, you must have changed the label. It's not made in India by an Indian company. Now today, when we talk about India, India has become an integral part of the supply chain for all the global retailers. Everybody is thinking about India. When you talk about Walmart, they're talking about $10 billion, kind of outsourcing from India. There's Uniqlo talking about India. So, India is in a very sweet spot. Not only because it is becoming an integral part of the supply chain, one of the most stable democracy that you see here, Tamanna. You see the leadership in the terms of infrastructure, the growth. You see the neighboring countries still struggling. And that's where India really holds its own. And apart from that, when we talk about India as a country, the consumption, 1.4 billion people, it's not about the consumption for India itself. It is also about the workforce, which is going to be the youngest for the next 30 years. So for me, that's where I feel really, I said like India is in where? It's the Indian era right now. And let me be very proud of that and say that, We'll talk about, saying that, we'll be the third largest or maybe the second largest economy very soon. And I think that's what just keeps me going as a leader as well.
Yeah. You talked about India's space or position in the global supply chain. And you work, Wellspun, of course, works with some of the biggest retail brands. I want to understand the distance that has been traveled for the longest time for India in many sectors to compete. There was the cost question vis-a-vis China, the quality question. Do you think that we've surpassed some of those barriers? And today, in a China plus one world, India stands stronger?
We are reaching there. With China, China has been the factory of the world for the longest time. And to get India there, we are reaching there. I'll give an example for Wellspun today. Our plants are one of the best plants, I could say, in the world in the terms of textiles. And it is not just about the machines, automation, Industry 4.0 that we can talk about, but about our people. Our people are trained in Industry 4.0. They are upskilled. We are talking about women, in diversity. We are talking about the entire supply chain with complete traceability, blockchain, and innovation. I think as India, as a country, as we evolve, we are absolutely there to offer the best in class. I'll give a small anecdote here and share that with you. Our flooring plant, which is in Telangana, you see these kind of wall-to-wall carpets today here. You see the wooden flooring. They were all made in China and the other countries, not in India. The entire supply chain was dependent to China. We completely indigenized the supply chain, and now 70% is outsourced from India. So there's this ecosystem. And Tamanna, let's not forget, when I talk about ourselves as textile industry as well, or the other industries, the MSMEs is the bedrock. And the kind of support that the government has opened up for the MSMEs, I think that, again, is a great opportunity for India as a story and being an integral part of that supply chain as well.
Right now, as a business leader, what, in your view, are the biggest headwinds and tailwinds? Let me start with the tailwinds, of course. We are an economy growing at 7 to 8%. That's the easy bit. So let me come to you on the headwinds. Do you think the biggest concern right now is what's happening geopolitically in the space you are in especially?
Absolutely, Tamanna. And I think a lot of people will agree that when you are in this scenario where I think the disruptions that can happen are going to be more than anything but geopolitical. Today, I always say when people ask me about, my business and they talk about, what do you think about business? What do you think about the demand? I say, while India is growing and India has a great opportunity, and for us as well as an opportunity, I think it is humongous. But I must tell you that the Red Sea has been the biggest challenge today. And that, again, is an aftermath of the geopolitical situation that we are in. So the entire supply chain is in chaos. So your supply chain, actually, where it could have been 4 months or 6 months, had gone to 12 months. Because you're planning in advance, your working capital is over-leveraged. You have to really plan when it is going to reach the shores of America. And how do you work backwards? So it is very, very chaotic. So let me tell you, while there are opportunities for India, because India is in that sweet spot, for us more so, because when I talk about textiles, the Xinjiang cotton is something which is now, people are absolutely looking at, that as a kind of, starter for any business. So Indian cotton is again into prime here. Everything is good. But again, the supply chain, leveraging the entire, the whole ecosystem in the terms of timelines has been the biggest challenge, Tamanna, today for me.
We're speaking, Dipali, ahead of the festive season. For a lot of business and sectors, it's one of the prime seasons of the entire calendar year. A good idea and time to also do a consumption check.
Yeah.
What are the kind of wins you are getting in terms of consumption? Are you looking forward to a robust festive season this time?
So I will say that it could be something where I will keep it. I remember, like when I saw the Q1 opening up for us this year, it was pretty slow. Q2 starts picking up. But when I see now we're right in the festive season, still it is just warmish. And that the shopping will happen in the last 1 week of the season. More so, I'll tell you, with the whole quick commerce that's come into play, the opportunities to buy 24/7, and there are a lot of great deals, the consumer is getting more savvier of what she's picking up, So I think now the season is about being 12 months. It's not just about the Diwali season.
Okay.
So I think that's something that you're seeing as a differentiation. The interesting thing I must also add on here is the digitization. when we talked about COVID and, where India was at 10% in the terms of commerce, e-commerce, today it is at 25%. And you see this economy in India taking it up more so rapidly. Whether it's quick commerce, it's a neighborhood, you're ordering your food, your best food, or you want anything. You can now order a towel, you can order your sargi. Karwa Chauth's just gone by. You could have ordered your sargi, just 5 hours ahead of what you want. So I think now this has become convenience. So either we call it, buy online, pay in store in America, where you can, order either online or go to the store to pick up, or, you order there or go, they can be delivered home. So this is the kind of convenience that the consumers are seeking, and more so the Gen Z and the millennials.
Okay, so festive season, you're hoping will pick up, consumption will pick up, but we've been seeing a trend of premiumization. Are you seeing that sustaining? In a lot of spaces, you're seeing premium products get more attention, customers seeing more growth there. Are you looking at that trend?
I'll tell you one thing. When economies globally are uncertain, the economies are in turmoil, there are two things, the two segments that do well. Either the cheap, the economic segment, or the luxury. And this is a trend worldwide. You would have seen last year as well, all the luxury brands, they did tremendously well.
Yes.
And so that's where the discretionary spends started kicking in. Or otherwise, it's the mass market that starts, the brands there, they start doing well, because this is where, it works. The middle segment tends to suffer there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're still seeing that premiumization trend continue?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Dipali, we've done a sort of a temp check of industry and where you see Indian business going. I want to come now to your story, because it's just fascinating. We're talking about women leadership here. And I'm really curious to know what your journey was like.
So you know what? I tell my daughters, Tamanna, always. I tell them, you know what? You have an opportunity to have, learned, gone to college, have had, the way you wanted to. For me, I got married at the age of 18. I had children early, and I started working at the age of 30. I was a homemaker. And I have 2 daughters. So my journey began not only for myself, because I always believe as a human being, you have to constantly evolve. And I think that's the way I've always believed in, constantly learn. But it was also important for me to set an example for my daughters. Because it is about that if I can do it, my daughters can do it. And that's where I'll open doors for many women, many girls. And that's where the journey of struggle began in 2003. Learning on the ground, learning from scratch wasn't easy for me, Tamanna. But I think I've always believed in that if you believe in it, you can do it. And if you have the commitment, you can definitely look at and never give up. I mean, these are a couple of things that I always believe in. And that's the spirit I've maintained till today. 2010, when I got on board of textiles as well, from $400 million to today, we are at $1.2 billion as a revenue at Welspun Living Limited. I think it's been a very interesting journey, because I didn't know anything about textiles. I didn't know how the cotton was bought, what is spinning, what is weaving, and what is processing, Tamanna. I learned everything on the ground, but I played on my strengths. And what were my strengths? Because I know as a consumer what a woman needs in a home product. And that was as simple as that. Then again, creating a company, creating an organization which not only does have, men, but women. Because in a manufacturing facility, primarily, they were just men. And from 8% to today, around 28% women. I think it's been an interesting journey towards diversity, towards innovation, and towards sustainability, and keeping the consumer at the core, and looking at analytics about what the consumer will buy. So I think it's been a very interesting journey for me so far.
That's so inspiring. I think a round of applause here for Dipali's journey, and for you coming today and saying that when I started out, I did not know X, Y, Z, and I learned it. लेकिन दीपाली जी, इसमें एक चीज़ है, चूंकि आप महिलाएं हैं तो मल्टीटास्किंग एक तरफ और एक अलग एनालिसिस लाना बिजनेस के लिए, ये आपके सामने वाले कितने जल्दी समझ पाए?
थोड़ा मुश्किल रहा बिकॉज कई बार लोग यही समझते हैं, आई मीन इट वुड बी लाइक इफ आई वुड गो विथ माई वर्क कलीग फॉर अ मीटिंग, दे वुड टॉक टू हिम एंड नॉट टू मी. तो वो रहा. बट मैंने हमेशा यही विश्वास रखा है कि अगर आप अपने आप पे विश्वास रखते हैं तो सबको बाद में आप पे विश्वास करना ही पड़ेगा. बिकॉज बाय द एंड ऑफ इट, इट्स अबाउट द वर्क दैट यू डू एंड द इम्पैक्ट दैट यू मेक. आपने अभी तमन्ना एक बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज़ बोली, एंड ये सबके लिए एक बहुत, हम जब डिवर्सिटी की भी बात करते हैं, मैं ये बोलना चाहूँगी आपसे कि मैंने अपनी जर्नी तो आपके सामने रखी, बट अगर मेरे को ज़्यादा बहनें और ज़्यादा मोर women coming into workforce, it's not an easy journey, and there are a lot of women who will agree to that as well here. Now, when I talk about textiles, I mean, it is absolutely labor intensive. At Wellspun Living, we have around 15,000 people working with us. Now, getting that around 20 to 30% women in that workforce, बहुत काम करना पड़ा. Because family को बताना पड़ा कि आप अगर वर्कलोड शेयर करेंगे तो ये काम कर पाएंगी और कंट्रीब्यूट कर पाएंगी घर के खर्चे के अंदर. So it's been a very, you sensitize the family. Then have a roadmap for her. Give her the convenience. And the important thing is, अब रूरल में तो कर लेंगे, पर आपके जो वाइट कॉलर पे आप आते हैं, वहाँ पे सबसे ज़्यादा स्ट्रगल रहती है.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. And you know why I'm saying this? Because being a woman, I've faced it. So I had to see that how could I make a path easier for women working in my offices as well.
Well, it's an inspiration to see a woman at the helm in India Inc. And thank you for that, Dipali. That's an amazing story. But I want to also come to the point of what you bring in as a leader, and an important part in your sector, which is a question of sustainability. Especially in textiles, it's become the need of the hour. How do you tackle a challenge like that? Because we are a cost-sensitive country, you have to keep your margins intact as well, totally. And you need to move to sustainability.
Totally. So Tamanna, first of all, I always say that sustainability is not expensive. And it is the impact. I'll tell you in Anjar, हमारी factory है कच्छ में. It is in a desert area, जहाँ पर अगर मैं बताऊँ, अंजार वो एरिया है जहाँ पर भूकंप आया था 2002 में. There's not a drop of fresh water there. And सारा पानी नर्मदा से आता था. We actually use around 30 million liters of water, to be precise. और कई बार पानी सूखा पड़ जाता है. Then if we would have used that water for textiles, हम पानी यूज़ करते तो ना तो farmers के पास पानी रहता, ना communities के पास रहता. Today, with our STP program, sewage treatment plant that we have, we don't use a drop of fresh water. And सारा हम communities से सारा sewage का पानी लेते हैं, वहाँ उनको royalty देते हैं. So that we could use that fresh water, that sewage water and recycle it and use it in our operations. So farmers get water for irrigation, and there's potable water for the villages as well.
And villagers actually get paid for the usage
royalties
of their
given to the
sewage water.
villages.
That's
Yes.
amazing.
So I'm saying sustainability is such an important aspect. So for us at Wellspun, we have another 3 years of a roadmap that we've made. How much water? So fresh, zero fresh water, landfill zero, being green by 2027 and 2030 is a roadmap that we have made for ourselves. And we report back to the board every quarter about our performances in sustainability and the social impact that we do in our communities as well. One of the interesting programs that I have is the upcycling of rags, where जो चिंदियाँ निकलती हैं हमारे ऑपरेशन से, हम कम्युनिटीज़ में पिटलूम पे हमारी जो बहनें हैं वो कम्युनिटी सेंटर्स में आके जब भी उनको टाइम होता है कुशन्स बनाएंगी, रैग्स बनाएंगी, मतलब उसके रग्स बनाएंगी, एंड दे अपना बैंक अकाउंट खुद ऑपरेट करती हैं, एंड दे आर अर्निंग 20,000 rupees per month. Because I believe that if a woman is independent and empowered, the child will definitely go to school. And sitting in Delhi or sitting in Bombay is easy to think and envision, okay, my child has to do his, education complete. But think about India. That India where the literacy still is at 60 to 70%. Look at China, which is at 100% literacy rate. If a mother is empowered, definitely the child is going to go to school. Otherwise, the father would say, "To abhi kaam pe lag ja, because I don't have money to support you." So I think these are very important aspects. And as corporates, I think we need to start thinking from the grassroots. So when I say sustainability, I think to create a sustainable future for India, sustainable future for the world, sustainability is not expensive.
Amazing. Do you think corporate India is doing enough of its part for sustainability beyond the marketing bit of it, or beyond CSR, or beyond what looks good or sounds good? Do you think enough is being done?
We have a long way to cover, but I think the journey is still begun. Journey is still begun in the terms of that 1% that the companies have to give for the the CSR as well. I think these are small steps, but like corporates, if they start looking at India and not just contributing, and not just doing businesses, but becoming the agents of change, is where that we'll start making a difference.
Amazing. Dipali, as we wrap, one message for you, from you, for women leaders in all fields, may not just be in corporate, maybe in any field, maybe in their lives. How do you take charge?
By believing in yourself and never giving up. The road is not easy. The journey is not going to be easy. And there'll be a lot of times you'll feel that I can just, hang my boots and I don't want to do it. And that's the time you give that extra effort and move ahead. I think that's what it is. And believe in yourself.
Amazing. Thank you, sir. Amazing words there from Dipali Goenka. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, Osama, it seems the disciples of Vichy have taken over. When asked in an Olympiad review, Osama, whether India's time had come, well, it said the simple answer is yes. It's hard to overstate how India dominated the Budapest Olympiad to begin with.
Well, India there created chess history, winning the country's first ever gold in men's as well as the women's event. As we continue to celebrate their feat, let me please welcome the amazing Tanya Sajdev, Vantika Agarwal, Abhijit Kunte joining us on stage with our colleague Rika Roy.
Okay then. We very often talk about a sky full of stars. When you look at this stage, it is a stage full of stars. And the reason I say this, because we have two rock stars, absolute rock stars of chess here with me, who were part of India's 45th chess gold medal winning team. There were 10 of them there, and there are 2 of them here with us at the moment. Why do we say it was history made at Chess Olympiad? Chess Olympiad started in 1924, coinciding with the 7th edition of the modern Olympic Games that happened in Paris. It took 100 years for India to win gold medals. They came very close in 2022, clinching bronze, but that's as far as we had got. We also call it historic because of this stunning piece of stat. And I want to state this in front of all of you. From a total of 7,752 games, yes, that was played by 1,870 players across 11 rounds over 13 days. These men and women clinched the gold medal. A big round of applause for them once again. Today, we are joined, sitting on my left is Vantika Agarwal, who claimed not one, but 2 gold medals in her single and in her group, in her team game, team gold as well. On my extreme left is the rock star of Indian chess, Tanya Sachdev. We have known her since the time she was a teenager featuring of NDTV. The first story we did, by the way, was when she was 10 years old. And here's what, I'm not going to be talking about her age today, but here Tanya sitting in front of you today, gold medalist at the Chess Olympiad. With them, we have chess legend Abhijit Kunte, who is a coach of the women's chess team. The men, I will admit, we have reached out to them, but they're playing tournaments all across the globe, and they have created some stunning piece of achievements even after the Chess Olympiad. Tanya, I'll start with the last moment, the final day of Chess Olympiad. मैं पढ़ रही थी कहीं पे, गुकेश ने कहा था, he said after you had finished the 12th day, almost you had known that you are going to be winning and you are going to be the gold medal winner. And उनके लिए काफ़ी difficult था वापस जाके focus करना. It was very difficult to get back on the board, focus, knowing that you've already clinched the gold. Tell us, at that moment, what did it take for all of you to lift yourself, focus, get back on the drawing board, on the chess board, and, finish the final day?
Rika, firstly, I want to say that my first video with NDTV when I was a little girl, it's still on YouTube somewhere where more than chess, it's me dancing on that video. So it goes a long way back, and dancing never really worked out for me. But chess continued. Coming to your question, I think for the men's team, it was a very different narrative compared to the women team. They ran away with it. They were unstoppable. I don't know how many of you were following, but we had 3 players in the men team who had just played the candidates. One of them who's going to play for the World Championship. Gukesh was there, leading from the top, and everyone was in form. So they went into the last day with a very different mindset, and I think this was so impressive because it's so easy when you know you've got the gold to kind of take it easy. And, you think you'll be solid on every board, a draw is good enough, but these guys went on to even win the final round and, clinch it in style. For the women team, it was, for us, it was a different narrative because, so we had 7 wins in a row, and we lost the 8th match to Poland. Now, the story goes even further back than the last moment because we were exactly at this place in 2022 at the Chennai Olympiad as well, when we had a fantastic run, but in the final moments, we had 1 loss, and then we came back from it, but it was the last round that took the gold away from us. The ghosts of these past, they're always in your mind. And it's very important to block out the noise. We managed to come back from the loss against Poland. And then eventually, going into the last match, we knew that we needed to win this. So it was not a situation where if we held every board, if we draw, we'd be given the gold. So we had to earn and sweat it out in the last match. And the team really delivered on that day. And before that as well, we beat China. We won the last match. And I remember just when it finished, Harika was the last game to finish and Abhijit was there with her. And she has been also, I got into the team since 2008 and I've played every Olympiad. She's been on the team since 2004 and played every Olympiad. And I think you could see it on her and we all felt it, that this is something that we worked towards not that year, not 2 years ago, not since Chennai, but 16 years for me and even longer for her. So having done that job in that moment, I think we all felt probably more emotional than we ever have because it went far beyond than winning the gold. It was a lifetime journey for a lot of us on the team. And I don't think any of us could have imagined it finishing better than standing side by side with the men team, winning a historic gold. Only 2 countries before us have done that at the Olympiad, that they won the men and the women together. People have been talking about this for generations, that chess started in India. And then, obviously, there's been this big boom in India and the biggest talent is coming out. But doing this, having this performance, I think it really established that, the future of chess is not India, that is the present and the future of chess. So very special moment.
And Tanya, what really stands out for me, for all you heroes of the country, when you win a gold medal and not silver, not bronze, that is when Indian national flag is hoisted on the soil of another nation. And that's a big moment for all of us. We keep recounting what Abhinav Bindra did, what Neeraj Chopra did, and what you guys have done lately. It is pretty special for all of us. Abhijit, coming to you, chess is a very individualistic sport. Now, when we talk about a team, we know that the women's team had a lot of ups and downs. How difficult was it then for a coach to hold them all together and help them vault to that performance on the last day?
I think the problem was 2022 because we were in the same situation and we lost to USA that game. We had a very good team this year and we were very close. Kazakhstan was there with the same points, but they were playing against America, which was a strong team. And we were playing with Azerbaijan. So we had a very good chance to win. But it was just that players should not get burdened with winning the gold. That was the main idea. And luckily we had 2 junior players who were not in the team that year. Divya and Vantika. So it was a good thing. And I am very happy that they played very well that day. It was a clean win, 3.5 half. And there was no burden. Okay, initially, before the match, there was some tension. But once the game started and they got their positions, it was all happy moment for me as a coach. Because when I see the position, it was very easy.
Before I come to Vantika, I'll have to ask you a question about what you just mentioned, young people. 6 of the 10 are below the age of 22. क्या आप कहेंगे कि भारतीय चेस में एक generational shift हो चुका है अभी?
Yes, definitely. Because when I became the national champion in 97, I was the youngest national champion at the age of 24. And now if you see the Olympic gold medal winning team, which is below 21.
Right.
6 players below 21. So ये बहुत बड़ा change है. Second thing I will say is that Indian women team was always very strong, but somehow we were not winning the medal. I took the job of being the coach of the team since 21, and I think most of the tournaments Tanya was part of the team, and we could start winning the medals. And that confidence has helped the team that now coming without a medal, it's like a failure. And now I think the team has grown so much that not winning gold itself looks like a failure. I think ये जो अभी ऊर्जा बनी है टीम में वो सबसे important है.
Right. Vantika, to you, double gold medalist at the Chess Olympiad, one your single gold and one team gold. Can you go back to being the simple girl from Sri Ram College of Commerce who graduated a few years ago? That ordinary girl. Is it possible for you to live that life once again?
I think I still feel like I'm the same girl from Sri Ram College, but it's such a proud moment for me and for our entire Indian nation and our team to win double gold. And for me especially, I'm so happy that I could perform for India. I mean, when the team needed me the most, I could win some games. I think my games against Kazakhstan, Poland was not so good, but Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, USA. So I think we all delivered when the team needed, and it just feels so amazing to win the gold.
Vantika, medal जीते आप उस दिन. What did you do after the medal win? What did you do with the medal? Who all did you go and show?
So after we won the medal, we were all so happy, and then after we won the prize and all, Gukesh and Tanya,
You did a special dance.
Yeah, we had planned this and we had this special celebration.
Did you plan that special dance?
Yes, it was all planned. Not before, but once we both won the medal.
Vantika, you're giving too much away right now.
No, I want you guys to say what was planned and how did it come about, because we all saw that dance that went absolutely viral.
Yeah, it was very well done. I think Mukesh.
बहुत बढ़िया choreography भी था.
Yeah, I think it was your idea,
Tanya
right?
choreographed.
I told you my first video with NDTV goes back to dance.
Yeah, so it was, I think that was the most fun moment. And then we also made a reel where all of our members were there. We, after the PD, we went to a pizza restaurant because it was already past 12 and none of the restaurants were open. Yeah, but the team itself being together, that was special moment for us. And after that, in fact, after coming back to India, we didn't have any time. In fact, after coming back, I came home at 2 o'clock, and the next morning at 7, I just got up and came to NDTV studio for the interview. Yeah, and the next day itself, Prime Minister sir also met us, and it was such an honor and pleasure for us, to get this chance and opportunity to meet him. And we got felicitated and honored by so many great people. It just felt amazing.
Tanya, what is it about Budapest and Indian sports stars, Neeraj Chopra, you guys, you seem to have made Budapest your favorite haunt. We are going there and winning the yellow medal time and again. दिमाग में था कि नीरज ने भी यहाँ पे कुछ स्पेशल किया है, हमें भी करना है?
Not the fact related to the city itself, although Budapest, great city, highly recommend to go visit, even if you're not a chess player. But coming to your point about Neeraj, I was very closely involved with the Paris Games, with the Olympics. Right. I was doing the broadcast for that. And the team for our Budapest, for the Chess Olympics got announced, I think 3 days before I was leaving for that.
Wow.
But my experience there and being so close, and I'm somebody who I'll be honest, hasn't followed the Olympics closely. We all know about our athletes, but the sports and, all the different sports, I've never followed it. But having done that, I felt so inspired by really what sports brings out and what it takes to be there and how they play their hearts out. And, sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, one of the biggest examples is, the 100-meter race. I mean, you work for 4 years and then you have those 10 seconds to give it. And if you're able to do it, you go for glory. But just the whole atmosphere around it and looking back at it, I think being involved with that and what it takes for these athletes to cancel out the noise, the pressure, and to put in all the hard work that they can before, and then to just give it their best. For me, that was a huge learning experience.
Who were you inspired by? You said you were in the
okay,
broadcast.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I mean, of course,
Noah Lyles?
Sorry?
Noah Lyles?
Simone Biles, actually. A huge Simone Biles fan. I think, she really shows one of the most incredible, things that I feel that chess has taught me, and I could see it. It's just this ability to stand back up again. Coming back to the 22 chess Olympiad, you suffer this heartbreaking moment. And let me tell you guys that, the 22 Olympiad was a historic moment for us. India had never won a medal before that. Winning the bronze in that was in itself, if someone at the start of the tournament told us you're going to win the bronze, we would take it with both hands and jump on it. But the way the tournament went, we didn't win the bronze, we lost the gold in that one. And I think it took us, at least it took me months, and we could not feel any celebration. So, just getting back up there, one of the biggest lessons with sports, and just to go back and do it all over again. What Neeraj Chopra also did at the Olympics, you were facing a 92-meter throw, and then to respond to that. So as Vantika said, you face a challenge, you lose to Poland, to respond and to come back, to beat China, to hold your own against countries like US. I think that's what sports is about.
We will get both of you girls back to celebrations once again. But before that, Abhijit, chess, again, is a very, as we were talking about, individualistic sport. Why can't associations or federations produce chess players? Why does it have to be individuals like Vantika and Tanya who train with private coaches, coaches from different ecosystem to become what they are? Why can't system produce rock star players?
So chess is a very different sport. It has a lot of research, it has a lot of arts, and it has a lot of sports. At grassroots level, the association is mainly involved in organizing the tournaments, which gives fair opportunity for everyone to participate. So the participation opportunity is huge in chess because it's an individual sport, so you can play many tournaments nationally, domestically, internationally. So there the associations and the World Federation plays a part. They have the ranking system, selection tournaments, team selection. Then we have the camps for the selected team members.
Right.
So we have very few team tournaments in India. So the players are individuals, so they have their individual coaches, they have their individual choices. Most important thing is, it is not possible for them to share their preparation because we have a lot of preparation. We have 1 crore plus games which we have to check, we have to make our own strategies which cannot be disclosed because finally we all are competitors again after this team tournament.
Right.
So most of the players will always prefer to have their individual coaches rather than have the team coaches. So as a team also we have certain limitations.
But what about the pipeline? Who then takes responsibility of the pipeline?
The pipeline is coming always because you have this national championship from 7, 9, we have around 9 age group championships. So like 18 age group championships, men and women together. Where the national champions are there, they play in the world championships, Asian championships. And for them, the coaching camps are organized from the grandmasters, international grandmasters. And the state level, many state associations organize the camps. But getting into some kind of NCA structure, what the BCCI has,
Right.
that can become a challenge because the level of the players, what players are right now, are at top 5 or top 10 in the world where it is very difficult for them to share anything with anyone. And I feel this system is working fine. Yes, because we have top 5, 2 players in men, top 15 we have around 3 players in women. So I think the system is doing good. It's most important is that the players needs to be funded because it's a lot of individual work where you need a lot of seconds. So like
Is there enough funding in the system now?
It's always never enough, but it's decent. But I think there is a lot of scope for improvement.
There has been a shift since your time, you would
Yes,
say.
I think the shift has come from the 2022 once we won the bronze medal, and there has been a sea change in the situation.
We will go to the audience for some questions, but before that, Vantika, have you been a part of the Chess Olympiad? And Hannah, how was the experience?
So I was part of Chess Olympiad in 22 also, but I was playing in the second team. That time I was playing on board 1 and that time also I had a great run and my performance was 2500 plus and I mean I was after 9 rounds I had 7 points. So it was that time me and Divya both we were playing in the second team. But all the team members couldn't perform that well, so we couldn't get a medal. But to win the main team, no. Last year in Asian Games also I was in the main team. That time we won the silver medal.
Tanya, chess has an IPL-like tournament in India. Has it really impacted the system in terms of producing the kind of players that we expect?
I think you're referring to the Global Chess League?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one of the things that Indian chess has been missing is a league which gives opportunities to players to play as a team, for many of them to, for chess to become a viable career option. And for young people to take up the sport, initiatives like the Global Chess League go a long way. So it's sort of harbored around NBA, you've got that in basketball and then you've got the IPL here. It's huge for the ecosystem. It's only in its second year and we were all in London right now. For that, it's already grown a lot from first season and I think next season they're looking at 8 teams. But I want to just quickly hit upon what you asked Abhijit earlier, Rika, because I think that's such a big point about the support for players and about really what athletes go through at that time and this whole pipeline thing that you mentioned. Now, I got into the team in 2008 and it's 16 years later that another girl from Delhi, Vantika, got into the team who had a brilliant performance, a brilliant run at the Olympiad. In those 16 years, we still don't have a player from Delhi who's made it to the men's team, for example. And the dream is that I hope we don't have to wait for another 16 years for another player from Delhi to come up and perform at this level. And I think I'm going to say this, but I think the state government has a huge role to play in that. Delhi, that way, is one of the hardest cities to be an athlete in. And it's a difficult thing for me to talk about because it's really a sport that I have dedicated my life to, my career to. And there's a reason why we see so many grandmasters after grandmasters come out of Tamil Nadu, or young players to come out of, let's say, Maharashtra or Andhra, or why does every girl in Hyderabad want to play badminton? Because she's seen a Saina Nehwal, she's seen a PV Sindhu.
You see her, you be her.
Exactly. And, unless the state comes forward to really recognize the sweat and the hard work that players put in for years, and I want to say blood, but in chess there's not much blood going on, I'll be honest. Unless state recognizes its own, the effort that goes into it, how are you going to inspire the youth to take up a profession seriously? So I think
my colleague
a big
Osama is with
required.
the audience, and he will get you some questions as well. Yes, Osama, over to you.
Rika, I'm rightly here in the audience, and I'm pretty sure there are a lot of questions coming from the audience, and I can see a lot of raised hands here. But before I go to them, I have a very quick question for all the three of you. Just give us a sense of how Vishwanathan Anand, as a mentor, is for all of you, and who among the three of you have beaten him the most number of times?
I think the last bit is the easiest to answer in that. 0 would be the whole number on that. But, to that story, I'll just quickly say that I got into chess. My moment of being inspired to take chess up as a profession happened in Delhi. Vishy was giving a simul. I think it was for NIT, who was one of his sponsors for many, many years. I was one of the youngsters. I was 9 or 10 years old. I think it was at Siri Fort. And just watching him, he was playing with about 20 young kids. I was the only girl there. And I looked at him and he stood across from me. And, I was like, when I grow up, I want to be like him. And that was my moment where I felt like this is so cool. Obviously, I don't even come anywhere close, but that inspiration moment was close enough for me to be a part of this incredible team. So he has a huge impact on all of us.
My name is Barkat Rehan. I'm a great fan of sports. So what are the initiatives taken by Modi government, like Khelo India? Has it really helped you guys?
So right now, chess is not part of Khelo India or national games, but the central government supports all the teams which participate internationally. The training camps are supported by the central government. Plus, there is a program which funds the top level athletes. I think it's a top scheme where the players are supported and the cash awards, cash incentives for the performances. I think these are the few things which the government does, where players who are playing from national to international are taken care of, and there are some government grants for organizing international tournaments.
I just want to add a small story to that. We were actually in Budapest heading for the closing ceremony. The whole team was together. We were all in a bus, and at that time, Modi sir had a speech in the US. And we had won the medal maybe an hour or 2 hours ago. Right then, and we were heading towards, the trophy giving. And in that bus, we were listening to that speech, and just at that moment, he announced about this historic win. He spoke about us. And as players, just to be recognized so instantly for the efforts, it felt so inspiring and motivating.
Okay, taking from the positives of yours and being women, I wanted to ask you about the fate, what happened to Vinesh Phogat. I just wanted a reaction from you, being Olympians and she losing the last moment or whatever. How do you see that situation? I know it's all like goose pimples for everybody, but how would you deal with it, one? And number two, what happened? I mean, do you see it as a positive or a negative? Your reaction to her fate?
Yeah, it's a tough question, Again, I was covering the event. I was not covering. I was an anchor for a Geo at the time for the Olympic Games, and I still remember we were sort of getting ready for the day of her finals, and her bout against Sasaki Yu, I think it was, who she beat in the pre-quarter finals. someone who hadn't lost 80 bouts straight. And it was just a very heartbreaking moment to see what happened on that day. I am not the best person to get into the technicalities of wrestling as a sport and everything that it takes. But as an athlete, I think one can completely feel that pain of having gone through, reached that moment, and then it being taken away. So, yeah, it was very difficult.
Ma'am, if I can just add to fill in to what she said, I was at the Paris Olympic Games, of course, covering it. And on the day when she had secured her, almost guaranteed a medal, so all athletes have to go through a media zone at the end of their their sport. So that day, on the penultimate day, she went through it, walked through it, through the mixed zone, and she said, "Kal baat karungi sabse gold lekar." When it did not happen, the following day, she could have had the opportunity of missing out. Vinesh Fogart, being Vinesh Fogart, came and said, "Bad luck, did not happen, sorry." So we all said, you do not have to say sorry. There is nothing to say sorry about. It is a sport, the technicality that did you in, nothing to say sorry about.
Can I ask a question? The coach. I was also an amateur chess player. One of my students is a Grandmaster of India. Chess, Dronewali Harika.
Okay.
So for women, Koner Hampi and Dronewali Harika started the battle, and they were the first few. So when you say that it is not there in Delhi, the reason I will tell you for this, and that question also you can answer. The parents don't allow girls to play chess. They don't allow. They will say that tere liye nahi hai. You know, that's the attitude that is really a curse to Indian women. If they allow Indian women to play, we will forget even Indian cricket team. We don't allow. Because we are, I know, from the day one we want to dominate. So I want an answer from you. Thank you.
So we have two parents here of the women children. I think they can answer better, but I think the mindset is changing. When I used to play earlier, maybe in 2000, the number of participants were very less, but now if you see the numbers is growing, and I am confident that all this gold medal and the continuous medal winning by the women team, more children will take up chess professionally.
Tanya, we've almost come to the end of our discussion, but before we close out, every sport needs, highlight moments, the pivot moments or turning points. Would you say when Gukesh faces off against Dan Liren at the end of the year, that could be another pivotal moment for Indian chess? And how much is the chess fraternity looking forward to that? Could that be the turning point?
It's really a big moment for all of us, right? Because it was in 2013 that we lost the World Championship crown. Vishy Anand, of course, a legend, 5-time world champion. It was in Chennai. He played the match against Magnus. And we had a new world champion. Like you spoke about changing of guard, it's normal. A new tide comes in every time in sport, and it happened then. And now, after all these years, 11 to be exact, for the second time in history, an Indian will be fighting for the world championship crown again. Gukesh has already made history in many ways. He's going to be the youngest ever player to play for the world championship match at 18. As far as the turning point, I think there have been quite a few around, and it's hard to highlight just one, but I think it's sort of like a river, right? There are many twists and turns, and then it leads out into this ocean. And maybe this world champion will be the ocean, but I think India has had many of these pivotal points, whether it's the Olympic gold that we got, whether it's the world team silver that we won with Abhijit as a coach, many of them, or Gukesh winning the candidates. Hopefully, the World Championship will be the ocean after that.
Well, thank you very much, Tanya, Abhijit, and Vantika, for being with us, sharing your experiences. Give a big round of applause to Vishy's clones and our chess legend, Abhijit Kunte.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, at the close of a decade of the Act East policy, India-ASEAN ties have been upgraded to a comprehensive strategic partnership. Trade with the region has doubled to over $130 billion.
In fact, India's diplomatic push in Asia is gaining momentum. So what's next for the India-ASEAN partnership? Well, to further discuss this, we are pleased to invite now T.S. Tirumurthy, Ajay Bisaria. We also have Kabir Taneja and Dr. Wael Awad joining us, along with Tim Romer and our colleague Gauri Trivedi.
It's a power-packed panel to discuss the power dynamics in West Asia. And when we talk about West Asia, we talk about not just what's happening in the Middle East, but we also expand it to talk about Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, the region that is extremely important for India for many reasons, whether it is strategic, whether it's our interest related to energy, all that and much more. So that's exactly what we're going to focus on. We have Ambassador Tirumurthy, who's the former permanent representative of India to the United Nations, Ambassador Bisaria, who's former High Commissioner of India to Pakistan, Kabir Taneja, Deputy Director and Fellow Strategic Studies Program at the ORF. We have Dr. Awad, who is senior journalist and West Asia strategist, and Ambassador Tim Romer joining us live from Washington, D.C. He's Executive Director, APCO, and former U.S. Ambassador to India. As I said, it's a power-packed panel to discuss the power dynamics in the region. Let's get started, and gentlemen, we'll try and cover as much ground as possible because there's a lot of issues to try and pack in 30 minutes. The clock is already ticking. So let me start, Ambassador Tirumurthy, with you. And we're going to try and take up each of these geographies as much as possible through the lens of India. Why it matters to India, India's interests, how they can be protected, and how we can build on that momentum going forward. But let's start first with the conflict in the region. When you talk about Israel and Iranian proxies, how do you read that? And then we come back and talk in terms of some of the other regions in West Asia.
I think Israel has reasserted its military domination in the region, which it always had. If you come to Gaza, there is no doubt that Hamas has been considerably degraded, but this has come at a very high cost. And some would say it's an unacceptably high cost. We have had more than 43,000 Palestinians who have been killed, most of them women and children. And international law has been violated. And this has happened right through the conflict. The brutal attack of Hamas on Israel, the more than 250 hostages which they have taken into Gaza, and then the pulverization of Gaza to dust. And I think more importantly, the dehumanization of the Palestinians. I think all these have happened. And the ceasefire is nowhere in sight, and Israel has clearly ruled out a ceasefire. And when it comes to Lebanon, you've had the degradation of Hezbollah as well, and they are still fighting it out. It's not an easy fight for either of the two sides, but weakening of the Hezbollah, they not only get weakened militarily, but they also get weakened politically, because as you know, there has been a political logjam in Lebanon. It's a sovereign state, and Hezbollah is playing a part there on the political side. So therefore, they get weakened politically, which probably is not a bad thing for the Lebanese themselves. Maybe they can break the political paralysis. So therefore, the so-called axis of resistance are definitely getting weakened, which is a good thing for Israelis. When it comes to Iran, you know very well that Israel and the West have put out this narrative that the biggest problem in the Middle East is Iran, and it is not the Palestinian issue. And that is partly the reason why we have had this, the Abraham Accords, where they have normalized, the Gulf has normalized with Israel, but without any reference to the Palestinian issue itself.
Right.
So I think that is where this Gaza war has brought the Palestinian issue back into the reckoning. And this tit for tat between Israel and Iran, which has gone on. Now, that is something which, in my opinion, for the first time ever, when Iranians are able to tell the world that they can actually reach Israel and pierce the Iron Dome,
yes,
I think the rules of engagement have been irrevocably reset.
Okay.
And that is not necessarily in favor of Israel. So if all this put together, is Israel more secure now than before? I'm not so sure, because history tells us that whenever Israel goes into Gaza or when they go into Lebanon, they get caught in a quagmire and they have to finally extricate themselves, which should automatically, the radicals in the region then get strengthened, and then the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza becomes more intense, and this cycle goes on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm interjecting there, sir, because that's a very important point that you made in terms of long-term outcomes of the war for Israel and by extension, I mean the world as well. But I come back to what I started this discussion with, which is that how do we view this entire region through the lens of New Delhi? And I think when we talk about West Asia, I think Pakistan is probably equally important for us. And Ambassador Bisari, I want to ask you more so, given the political instability that Pakistan is witnessing and a fair amount of flux that it's going through, how does that impact the region, the stability for New Delhi? And then we also talk in terms of the bilateral relationship, but first address the instability that we are seeing right now in Pakistan, which many feel is only set to increase given the fact that the civilian government is on a very weak footing there.
Yes, so what Pakistan is going through is a sort of poly-crisis for the last at least 3 years. It has a security crisis, it has an economic crisis, and it also faces a political crisis. And all these add up, reinforce each other, and create a fair deal of instability and incoherence in policy. But you asked about how India is viewing it and how it should. I would make the broader point that in this conference you've heard for a couple of days, India's central mission is to grow and to be that $10 trillion economy, to be that $35 trillion economy by 2047. And what we need, therefore, is a stable periphery and also stability in the world. So we have a vested interest in having a stable region around us, and in the conflicts in West Asia and in Ukraine, if we can play a role, we'd like to play a role for peace in order to mitigate that risk to our growth trajectory. Now, Pakistan itself, when we look at the region, we see Pakistan and China as two abnormal countries with whom we've had adversarial relationships. But the instinct to stabilize those relationships is strong, and we are talking in a month when we are doing both of them. So,
exactly,
the Prime
yes.
Minister will be having a meeting with his Chinese counterpart, and the External Affairs Minister was in Pakistan. And it was a small step, but a message that we are willing to consider stabilizing this relationship. The deal breaker always is terrorism. So if there is terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir, that breaks the deal. But our instinct is to go and engage and move forward in this relationship.
Then there's been a lot of talk about, I would say, expectation around the India-Pakistan bilateral relationship. Dr. Jaishankar spoke to our editor-in-chief yesterday on the fact that there isn't much right now, given that it was a very specific visit to which he went to Pakistan for. But as someone who understands the dynamics very well, is it just a case of more expectations around than actual movement on ground, or do you think this could pave the way for more possibilities in the future?
it does pave the way because both sides tried some expectation management because in both countries, the narrative runs away with the media on every small development. But the point they wanted to make was, can we make a small step forward, create conditions for that larger rapprochement which we could possibly have, but build that trust? And I think that small step was made. It was no insignificant signal from India that Minister Jaishankar himself went to Pakistan. So I think the attempt is to try and stabilize that relationship, if not normalize it. And it plays into the larger story of India's foreign policy, that we want to stabilize the neighborhood, we want to be the rising tide which helps all the neighbors, and we also want to be an advocate and force for peace in the conflicts in the world, whether it's in Ukraine or in Gaza. If India can play a role, it will.
In fact, on that note, let me bring in Ambassador Romer into this conversation, sir. Two important threads that I want to ask you. One, on the fact that the role that New Delhi can play on a day when Prime Minister is in Kazan, he is meeting President of Russia, and President Putin has said in the past that if at all anybody that he trusts for the Ukraine conflict to be resolved, Prime Minister Modi is one of them. Also, there are voices that suggest that if at all West Asia conflict can be potentially resolved, New Delhi must play a larger role. In those contexts, I must ask you, sir, how do you see India's role and also the responsibility it has in the region?
Well, that's a very good question. And first of all, let me just tell you, I'm delighted to be back at the World Summit and with a very, very distinguished panel here today. I'm reading a book called On Grand Strategy by John Lewis Gaddis, a Yale professor and a grand strategist in foreign policy. And he has an Aesop's tale about the fox who knows many things and the hedgehog who knows one big thing. The one big thing for strategy in the Middle East that the United States has been advocating now for several years is a brand new architecture of regional security in that area. That's based upon, of course, the United States being one of the anchors of that partnership, but also so that we can spend more time in the Indo-Pacific. So we spend more time growing our economy, so we can spend more time with our European allies, managing the China relationship, battling terrorism. And so this new strategy in the Middle East is dependent upon the Abraham Accords and reaching out to other Arab states for peace and prosperity. It is based upon a normalization of trade and relations with Saudi. And it's based upon a strong Israel. Now, India can play a very, very important role in putting together this new architecture for a regional cooperation and security. India has 9 million people in the diaspora up in the Middle East. They have a strategic interest there. They're engaged more and more in maritime security. Their economy, as one of the panelists, the ambassador, was just talking about how India is more and more engaged in the world economy and therefore more involved in trying to make sure there's peace and stability in the world and oil prices don't spike. We're involved now more in the corridor leading up to the Middle East corridor that India could greatly profit and benefit from. And Mr. Modi has reached out to the United Arab Immigrants with more and more trade where they can invest in India and their economy. So India is right in the middle of many, many important things in the Middle East. So it's in their strategic interests to do more than diplomacy. Now, their superpower right now is diplomacy because they can open so many doors in the Middle East. They can talk to Iran. They can talk to Israel. They can talk to the Palestinians. They have a good relationship with many, many different people in that region. And they seem to be looking at the resolution of the Middle East in many of the same ways that the United States is. There needs to be a secure ceasefire. There needs to be an exchange, release of the hostages.
Yes.
There needs to be a secure settlement, a peacekeeping group coming into the area, probably Arab-led. There needs to be a reconstruction effort at some point in that area, probably led by Europe, but also the US and India could play a very important role in the rebuilding
Absolutely.
of Gaza. And then finally, I just say that there needs to be a moderate, prosperous economy in Gaza, long-term,
Yes.
that is politically stable and politically moderate. Those are the goals that the United States and India can work on together.
Absolutely.
To bring a new architecture and regional
Let me-
security
let me-
arrangement
let me,
to an area where China is growing quicker and faster.
Absolutely, Ambassador Romer. I'm going to come back to you with the questions or concerns that many have in terms of American leadership. Is that going through a phase of vacuum right now due to its internal political concerns that are taking over? I'll come to that in a bit. But the questions and rather the important insights that Ambassador Romer has thrown up in terms of what all can India do, the leverage it has, the fact that in a multipolar world, India has relationships across partners in this region. Kabir, how big a strength is that, and how can New Delhi really leverage on those?
Thank you so much. I think this, I mean, India has an impeccable sort of outreach in the region, right? And I know there are a lot of views on when you're using the term mediation on trying to solve or resolve issues in West Asia, but it doesn't have to be like we don't have to use the word mediation. You can just incubate some conversations, you can exchange messages, you can try to do an outreach on behalf of one another to just send across messages on what kind of thinking is taking place, especially where there are vacuums, right? One of the most difficult things to do, especially in a conflict like we are seeing in West Asia, is to fill vacuums. Sometimes, states take longer to fill a vacuum. Sometimes the official sort of channels take longer, and non-state entities are faster and more nimble these days, thanks to social media and so on and so forth, to come and sort of, push through their narratives. So there's this incredible sort of outreach that India has, as mentioned previously, with the Palestinians, with Israel, with the Arab world, and specifically with Iran, that certainly should be on offer. From the Indian side. Again, as I would just like to repeat that it does not mean it's mediation. I think there are whole different components that mediation requires, but incubating that conversation, that's certainly what India can successfully do.
I think in a situation that's deadlocked, just making any progress, that itself is the right direction for the world to move in. Dr. Awad, come in there in terms of what all can New Delhi do, and what I asked Kabir as well, that the next steps that New Delhi can sort of take in this region to really try and play. Mediation is a strong word, I agree with Kabir on that, but to be able to break the deadlock in any manner possible.
Thank you. I think India, I always advocate that India is the #1 stakeholder in the region in terms of the diaspora security, in terms of the food security, in terms of the oil security. So the natural extension of India into West Asia, apart being Pakistan has been on only after the partition, India was a natural extension to this part of the world. So therefore, the cultural exchange between India and the Arab world goes beyond millenniums. So we have seen the travel of the Arabs into India and to Kerala, and how St. Thomas came to India and spread Christianities and then Islam. We have the very strong and bonds in India. So therefore, India can play a role. But does India, like the rest of the world, have a voice to speak when it is the ball in the American court? It's nothing. Nobody is able to do anything because nobody is stopping the carnage. Is a total genocide happening in Gaza, where not a single word in the world are able to even pass a bottle of water to them. So all this,
okay,
India,
as we don't have an Israeli representation, I will have to come in there to just say that let's try and stick to more facts. So the simple reason that we had the Israeli ambassador yesterday on the panel, and in fact there was a conversation I had with him, and he said that this war can only end when Israel can have long-term peace. And that cannot happen right now, given the fact that it's fighting a 6-front, 7-front war due to the presence of Iranian proxies on several factors and several geographies. So that's what the Israeli version has been. And they've been saying that they've been very clear that there's been no concept of collective punishment. The reason why I'm reiterating that is because if there's no Israeli representation, let it not drift in a manner that we do not represent the other aspect of this discussion as well. It's a nuanced debate, and it's only fair to the audience that they should get the other side. Go ahead, Doctor.
No, I think you're right in your answer, because if it is, that's true. Because for Jews in the world, they have been prosecuted all over the world for a millennium. They only had shelter and lived like us, a Semite. We lived together in the same, under the Islamic rule. They never been prosecuted. When they came from Europe, after the Holocaust came to Palestine, in fact, prior to 1905, there was only 4,500 Jewish in Palestine. So that they came to stay. But when the problem is not with the Jew, the problem is with the Zionist movement in 1897, when they decided to create a state in Palestine. It is a land with people, it's not land without people. No, Garima, let me put my point very clear here. You had your voice on this. My point is very clear.
No, I don't have a voice. I'm just asking all of you. Yes.
I'm sorry. My point, I'm just trying to be, I am trying to give you the natural things. When the war started in the Arab world, 1948, it started between Israel and the Arab world, right? Over the years, there was peace deal with Camp David. Then you had Arafat. Then you had the Palestinian. Then you had a bilateral. Now you brought back the issues into a regional war.
Sir, I'll tell you, I am not interrupting you, but all I'm trying to say is, we live in times of 24/7 news. Trust me, the last 1 year, this audience knows exactly the milestones that you're referring to. But we also have the clock ticking right here, and quite literally the clock is ticking on this conflict for the world to find a solution. If we go back to 1948, there is no end to how far back in time we can go. Let me pause you there, because I want to touch upon two important things, and also get an Ambassador Roma who's wanting to come in here as well. Quickly, a question, Ambassador Tirumurthy, which is that as things stand right now, it doesn't look like this conflict is going to end soon, because that's how the positions are right now. In that context, if this war were to continue for some time, how do you see it impacting India and India's interests?
See, I think the most important thing which we need to look at is the day after. And now, for the day after, you have to have a day, and then comes the day after. And what is the day you're looking at? You're looking at a ceasefire. And ceasefire, as you know, has been ruled out by Israel in Gaza as of now. And so therefore there is no ceasefire, and it's going to continue for some time. The day after is the one which will really determine how the countries are going to be impacted. And this involves a political solution. Now the question is, a military solution is being found for whatever the Israelis think that there is a military solution now. But we need to transition to a political solution. And only then can you have security for Israel, which is they are desperately seeking, and also a certain element of stability in the region. Because after all, we have ambitious plans, and you've just heard what India would like to do. And these ambitious plans can take place only when there is security in the region. And that will not come without a political solution. Whether it is a two-state solution or a one-state solution is a different matter. And there, I'll just take just a few seconds. The point is that the world, including the International Court of Justice, has just spoken for a two-state solution, the 1967 boundary.
Yeah.
But whereas probably what Israel is looking at,
Yes.
which they have explicitly mentioned in so many words, is they want the West Bank for themselves because it is part of Judea and Samaria.
Right.
So we have to see how these things pan out for it to be impacted. And India will definitely be impacted if there is no stability in the region.
Indeed, yes. I'm going to come to some of those infrastructure projects that India has, and also some deep economic engagements it wants to build on, including the relationship with Iran. But Ambassador Romer, come in on the fact that two aspects. One is, how do these fantastic military victories translate into long-term political solution for Israel? And the second question that many have been, and experts have been wondering about, which is that the US leadership crisis seems to be on display in the Middle East, given the fact that 1 year into this conflict, it is not in a position to find some sort of a solution, possibly due to the politics that's taking over, the domestic politics that's taking over leadership's time?
Well, great questions. Let me get the second one first. The United States is still working assiduously and diligently and every day and every hour to try to get to a ceasefire, to try to make sure that peace comes to the region. Secretary Blinken landed in the Middle East today for his 11th trip to the Middle East since Hamas attacked Israel a year ago on October 7th. To the point of some of the frustration that I hear on the panel here, we have had Secretary Blinken and Secretary Austin, our defense secretary, send a very stern letter to the Israeli government on October the 14th saying, we will cut off arms, the potential to cut off arms to Israel if more supplies and humanitarian aid is not sent into Gaza. Israel responded immediately, and dozens of trucks were sent in based upon that stern and that very, very, I think, effective demand from our two secretaries. On October 15th, the United States sent Israel the THAAD system, which is the Terminal High Altitude Defense System. Speculation is that Israel got that so that they would not attack Iranian oil sites and spike oil prices, thereby hurting the global economy and obviously India. And so that there is effectually a lot of deal making going on here to try to de-escalate things in the Middle East. Now, what can India do specifically? I don't think they are a mediator at this point. I think they are a convener. Mr. Modi brought Egypt into the BRIC Association back in 2023.
Yes.
What can India do to try to make sure that when they meet with the Iranians, they try to de-escalate things with Iran, and when the Indians sit down and meet with Israel, they can also say, how do we de-escalate?
Yes.
I don't think Israel is in a position right now where they're going to draw back and they're going to agree to a ceasefire. I think Netanyahu is going to do all he can to politically cement in the military gains and wait out for the U.S. election to take place and see who wins between Trump and Harris.
Absolutely. And Ambassador Bisaria, which brings me to the question that as things stand right now, if this war were to continue, it is bound to have some impact, or do you think it's bound to have some impact on the India-Iran relationship, given the fact that you heard Ambassador Romer also very clearly saying that this war isn't ending anytime soon. So how does that impact New Delhi's relationship with a very important player for us, which is Tehran, in the context of the geopolitical headwinds that the region is seeing?
Absolutely. I think each day the war goes on, it is not in India's interests for its diaspora interests, for the reason of oil prices, and for India's geopolitical relationships. We are talking of, as we speak, there is a BRICS summit on where India's Prime Minister is likely to meet the Iranian president. And India is balancing those relationships in West Asia with relationships with both sides. So it does put pressure on India, and the more serious a war situation becomes, the tougher it is. But I think India's positioning will be that if we can play a role in peacemaking, we will. And as we've been talking in this panel, there are multiple levels of peacemaking. It could be just communication, it could be providing a platform, and working on a ceasefire or a peace plan comes much later. So India's interest is in this conflict ending as soon as possible.
All right.
Can I say one final thing?
Sure, Ambassador Romer, quickly, please. Yes.
Yeah, quickly. Not only can India play an important role in convening and possibly in peacemaking, but when I served as U.S. ambassador in New Delhi, we worked closely with India to invest in and try to bring peace to Afghanistan. And India did that. They did rebuilding of the parliament. They did women's empowerment training. They did economic investment and road building in Afghanistan. So when we get to the phase of rebuilding Gaza, India brings very important experience and interests and credibility.
That's a very important point you made. And I wish we could talk more in terms of what happens next, rebuilding of Gaza. Another issue that I wanted to touch upon in detail was IMEC, Kabir. Dr. Awad, I wish we had time for that, but I end with what I started. The clock is ticking quite literally for this conflict as well, for the world to find a solution. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me on this session. We're going to come back and talk more on this maybe at a later time. But right now, this is all the time we have. Thank you so much.
Well, for our next conversation, we talk about the specific areas of philanthropy that need more attention in India. We'll also examine how innovation is shaping the way we give and we receive.
In fact, we would now like to invite on stage Nidarshana Ramesh Govani, who will be in conversation with Gauri Dwivedi.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for speaking on an issue that I think I wish more time is spent on. In fact, let me do a brief introduction. Nidarshana Ramesh Govani, she's the founder and trustee of the Kamla Ankibai Kamandiram Govani Trust. Nidarshana, ma'am, thank you so much for speaking on an issue that I feel more time and more space needs to be given on. And let me start by asking you, in terms of the role that philanthropy can play in terms of shaping our society, किस तरह से क्या भूमिका निभाई जा सकती है philanthropy की, जो हमारी society है, हमारे समाज में कितना अहम है उसका role?
First of all, thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone. So, as I told you, that first of all, whatever we do in life, we have to be very sure. So if we are doing a social work or if we are trying to connect somebody with us, we have to be honest to ourselves. और मैं जैसे कल मोदी जी ने कहा कि हमारी मातृभाषा हिंदी है, so I want to do this summit in हिंदी.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
इंग्लिश और हिंदी, मुझे लगता है हम देश हमारा हिंदुस्तान है तो हमारी भाषा भी हिंदी होनी चाहिए.
जी.
तो जो आपने सब्जेक्ट बोला है कि किस तरह, तो पहली चीज़ आपको कनेक्ट करना बहुत ज़रूरी है. जब तक आप सोल कनेक्ट नहीं करते हो, आप किसी के साथ काम नहीं कर सकते हो. और ये बहुत वीकर सेक्टर्स हैं जिसको एम्पावर करने के हम सबको बहुत मजबूती देने की ज़रूरत है. आज हम सब ब्लेस्ड हैं कि हमारे पास सब कुछ है, पर ऐसे बहुत लोग इस समाज में हैं जिनके पास बहुत कुछ नहीं है. सो ऐसे सेक्टर को स्ट्रॉन्ग करना, ट्राइबल सेक्टर है, जैसे हम ट्रांसजेंडर्स के साथ काम करते हैं, सेक्स वर्कर्स के साथ काम करते हैं, HVP वैक्सीन पे बहुत काम करते हैं, जो कि मेजर इशू है आज की तारीख में. हर एक इंसान, हर एक 3 घर छोड़कर आपको मालूम पड़ता है somebody सफरिंग फ्रॉम कैंसर, किसी को कैंसर हुआ है. तो रेडियोलॉजी जब 1960 में मेरे नाना डीन थे, तब कोई रेडियोलॉजी समझता नहीं था. जैसे आई स्पोक टू यू एंड आई टोल्ड यू कि रेडियोलॉजी किसी को समझती नहीं थी कि कैंसर भी कोई बीमारी हो सकती है हमारे देश में. पर जिस तेज़ी से ये बढ़ रहा है, तो मुझे लगता है हमें हमारे बच्चों को HVP वैक्सीन देना और ऐसे लोगों को जो अफोर्ड नहीं कर सकते उन्हें दिलाना बहुत ज़रूरी है.
जी. और ऐसे कौन से क्षेत्र हैं जिसमें आपको लगता है ज़्यादा ध्यान देने की आवश्यकता है? क्योंकि फिलैंथ्रोपी एक बहुत बहुत वास्ट चीज़ है. आपके दिल के करीब ऐसे कौन से एरिया हैं जिसमें आपको लगता है ज़्यादा काम करने की ज़रूरत?
सबसे ज़्यादा ट्राइबल एरियाज़ जो बाहर के क्षेत्र हैं, जैसे मुंबई सिटी की हूँ मैं, दिल्ली मुंबई में तो काफ़ी लोग हैं जो सोशल वर्क के लिए काम करने के लिए तैयार हैं. क्योंकि बहुत इजी होता है कि हमारे बच्चों का जन्मदिन है तो चलिए आज सोशल वर्क कर लेते हैं, आज एनिवर्सरी है तो चलिए कुछ अच्छा कर लेते हैं, आज मेरे फादर इन लॉ का बर्थडे है तो चलिए कुछ डोनेशन कर देते हैं. पर ये हम हमारा रोज़ क्यों नहीं कर सकते? अगर हम इतना कुछ सोसाइटी से ले रहे हैं तो सोसाइटी को दे क्यों नहीं सकते? हम इसको डेली मतलब डेली पर मंथ जैसे हम इलेक्ट्रिसिटी बिल भरते हैं अपनी नीड्स के हिसाब से, शॉपिंग जाते हैं, तो थोड़ा सा हम सोसाइटी को गिव बैक क्यों नहीं कर सकते? तो मुझे लगता है कि बाहर जैसे यूपी में सोनभद्र है, अयोध्या है, अयोध्या में हम डेवलपमेंट खोला और वहाँ पे 99 को सक्षम बनाया जी। तो उनको भी HPV वैक्सीनेशन या कैंसर अवेयरनेस कैंप्स के बारे में कोई नॉलेज नहीं है। अब हाथ लगाने जाओ तो वो भागती हैं, हमें कोई बीमारी नहीं, हम एकदम ठीक हैं, डायलॉग रहता है कि नहीं है कि भयंकर बीमारी किसी को भी एजुकेशन ही एरियाज में जरूरत है जिनके हैं।
आदिवासी क्षेत्रों में काम करने की आवश्यकता है। यहाँ पे मुझे लगता है सूचना नहीं पहुँच पाती है, वो सारी जानकारी नहीं मिल पाती है जो आज की तारीख पे मिलनी चाहिए। लेकिन अगर हम टेक्नोलॉजी की बात करें, मुझे लगता है अगर हम इसे फिलैंथ्रोपी में यूज़ करें, बहुत इसका फ़ायदा हो सकता है। मेरे को जो समझ में आ रहा है, पहली चीज़ तो ये कि जितने हम साधन लगा रहे हैं उसका क्या रिज़ल्ट निकल के आ रहा है, ये टेक्नोलॉजी के माध्यम से पता चल सकता है। पर इसके अलावा और क्या क्या तरीके हैं जिससे हम टेक्नोलॉजी को यूज़ कर सकते हैं?
टेक्नोलॉजी ने अपना बहुत अच्छा काम किया है और बहुत ज़रूरी भी है। जैसे पहले हम जब डोनेशंस करते थे तो बड़े बूढ़े कहते थे एक हाथ से करो दूसरे को पता ना चले, पर अब ज़माना बदल गया है। जब तक आप दूसरे हाथ को बताओगे नहीं, आपकी जनरेशन कुछ सीख नहीं पाएगी। अब गूगल का ज़माना है, तो टेक्नोलॉजी इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, बहुत ज़रूरी है। जैसे आज हमें कोई ब्रांड लॉन्च करना है तो हम इंस्टाग्राम, फेसबुक, यूट्यूब यूज़ करते हैं। उसी तरह से अगर आपको सोशल वर्क करना है और अगर आप राइट चीज़ नहीं दिखाओगे यंगस्टर्स को कि क्या चल रहा है और किसको कितनी तकलीफ़ है, तो वो नहीं समझ पाएंगे कि हमें सोसाइटी में क्या चेंज लाना है। जैसे कल मोदी जी ने कहा इंडिया इज़ ग्रोइंग, बढ़ रहा है, विकसित भारत है। तो विकसित भारत को बनाने के लिए टेक्नोलॉजी ने काफ़ी मदद की है और टेक्नोलॉजी को यूज़ भी करना चाहिए। कुछ लोग हैं जो उसका फ़ायदा गलत उठाते हैं कि अपने आप को फेमस करने के लिए सोशल वर्क दिखाते हैं, पर जो जेन्युइन है, जैसे वो कहावत है यू कैन फूल मी वंस ट्वाइस बट नॉट थ्राइस, तो वैसे ही जो एक्चुअल रियल सोशल वर्क कर रहे हैं वो आपको दिखेगा और उससे यंगस्टर्स भी सीखते हैं और काफ़ी उनका भी ब्रेन स्ट्रांग होता है कि वी शुड गिव बैक टू सोसाइटी।
जी, आपकी संस्था विभिन्न समुदायों में तरह तरह के लोगों के साथ काम करती है। आपको क्या लगता है कि जो इस देश की विविधताएं हैं, इस देश की जो विभिन्नताएं हैं, उसका क्या असर पड़ता है हमारी फिलैंथ्रोपिक अप्रोच में? क्योंकि वन साइज़ फिट्स ऑल नहीं चलेगा यहाँ पे। तो आप बताइए, आपका क्या अनुभव रहा है?
देखिए, जब हम लोग ट्रांसजेंडर के साथ काम करते हैं तो उनकी अपनी काफ़ी नाराज़गियाँ रहती हैं कि हमें कोई समाज में रिस्पेक्ट नहीं देता है। और सच्ची बात है कि अब वो वैसे नहीं रहे कि रोड पर बेगिंग करें या भीख मांगे कि आप हमें 2 पैसे दे दीजिए। वो भी एजुकेट हो रहे हैं। काफ़ी हमारी फिल्म इंडस्ट्री में अगर आप देखेंगे तो बैक डांसर ट्रांसजेंडर है, दे लुक मच नाउ, बहुत सुंदर दिखते हैं। तो उनकी नाराज़गी है कि उनको राइट्स नहीं मिलते, उनको गवर्नमेंट नहीं मिलते हैं, जिसके उनको हेल्प करना चाहिए। क्षेत्र में लोगों को काम मिल रहा है तो उन्हें भी एक अपॉर्चुनिटी मिलनी चाहिए। वर्कर्स हैं, वो भी एक बड़ा अहम है सोसाइटी का। उनको देख के हम लोग हमेशा मुँह फेर लेते हैं कि हम उनकी मदद करें, उनके लिए काम कर रहे हैं, शौक कर रहे हैं। एक औरत होने के नाते हमें ये समझना बहुत ज़रूरी कि से ये काम करें।
ये बात सही है। ये जो है तक ये स्टिग्मा मदद, उनके लिए राहत, उनके लिए अलग अलग तरह की स्कीम कोई फ़ायदा नहीं
होगा। अगर काफ़ी इंटरव्यू भी करते हैं, आप उनकी स्टोरी सुने तो वो अपना छोड़कर आते हैं, अपने कर रहे हैं, अपने बच्चों को पढ़ा रहे हैं, अपने बूढ़े माँ बाप का ध्यान दे रहे हैं और उनको पता भी नहीं है कि वो शहर में क्या काम कर रहे हैं। एक वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट जो वो अपने घर को एम्पावर कर रहे हैं। हम उससे देखते गलत नज़र से, माँ दुर्गा की मिट्टी के लिए भी हम उनकी मिट्टी घर की यूज़ करते हैं। और सप्तशती के भी रहस्य में दिया हुआ है, अगर आप सप्तशती से यहाँ पर किसी को भी थोड़ा पढ़ते हो तो अगर पढ़ें भी तो रहस्य में, तीसरे रहस्य में ये दिया है कि एक रूप माँ का, एक रूप औरत का, भगवान का सेक्स वर्कर भी हैं, जो अगर नहीं हो तो हमारी सृष्टि पूरी नहीं है। और मेरा ये कहना है, मैं एक मेरी डॉटर है, एक मदर हूँ मैं, कि अगर वो नहीं है तो मेरी डॉटर, किसी की भी डॉटर सेफ़ नहीं है। सो वो भी एक इम्पॉर्टेंट कम्युनिटी है जिसके लिए करना चाहिए। हम उनकी एफडीज़ करते हैं। सरकारी जो अभी योजना आई है, उस योजना के तहत हम पोस्ट ऑफिस से उनकी एफडीज़ करते हैं कि उस एफडी 3 साल बाद जब मैच्योर हो तो वो अपना बिजनेस कर सकें।
आखिरी प्रश्न मैं आपसे पूछना चाहूँगी, इस देश की युवा शक्ति के लिए कैसे युवाओं का योगदान बढ़ाया जा सकता है परोपकार के लिए, फिलैंथ्रोपी के लिए, किस तरह से उनकी ऊर्जा को जोड़ा जा सकता है ताकि इस काम में ज़्यादा अलग अलग तरह की थॉट प्रोसेस आ सकें और नई ऊर्जा आ सके?
ये सब आपके अपने संस्कारों पे निर्भर होता है। आप जैसे अपने घर में अपने सर्वेंट से बात करेंगे वैसे आपके बच्चे बात करेंगे। चैरिटी बिगिंस फ्रॉम होम। अगर आप अपने घर की बाई को दीदी बोलेंगे तो आपके बच्चे दीदी बोलेंगे। अगर आप उनकी तकलीफ़ समझकर उनको हेल्प करेंगे तो आपके बच्चे हेल्प करेंगे। तो जो कुछ हम करते हैं उसका रिफ्लेक्शन हमारे बच्चे करते हैं। अगर आप सोशल वर्क करते हैं, जिस तरह से आप अपने लिए हर महीने इलेक्ट्रिसिटी बिल साइड करते हैं, शॉपिंग के लिए एक बजट बनाते हैं, ऐसे अगर आप सोशल वर्क डोनेशंस करेंगे तो वो लेगेसी आपके बच्चे लेकर जाएंगे कि नहीं, हमारे फादर, हमारी मदर सेविंग से ये पैसा इसको डोनेट करती थी। जो भी अमाउंट हो, हर इंसान अपने हिसाब से कर सकता है, तो वो बच्चे सीखेंगे। और यूथ आज का हम सबसे बहुत समझदार है, हम लोगों से बहुत स्मार्ट है और बहुत मैच्योर है। उनके अंदर ऑलरेडी बहुत दया भाव है जी। तो अगर आप उन्हें राइट डायरेक्शन देंगे तो वो बहुत चेंज लाएंगे सोसाइटी में।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल निदर्शना जी, आपसे बात करके बहुत अच्छा लगा और जो आपने कहा वो एक बहुत अहम हिस्सा है। भारत को आगे बढ़ना है, प्रगति के रास्ते पे जाना है तो वंचित वर्गों को आगे लेके चलना पड़ेगा और सारा भार सरकारें नहीं उठा सकती, उसका बहुत बड़ा भार हमको भी उठाना पड़ेगा
बहुत। और हमारे जैसे सोशल वर्क जो करते हैं, जिनकी ट्रस्ट है, खुद की फैमिली ट्रस्ट है, CSR फंडिंग्स है, अगर हम उन सरकार के साथ मिलके काम करें तो एक बहुत बड़ा चेंज सोसाइटी में आ सकता है।
बिल्कुल, इसी उम्मीद के साथ इस चर्चा को यहाँ पे विराम देते हैं। थैंक यू सो मच।
थैंक यू सो मच।
Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest is a global phenomena who has captivated people across the world with his unique blend of storytelling and social commentary. At the age of just 26, he became a millionaire. Then he decided to build a company. Now he has two.
Nasser Yassin, popularly known as Nas Daily, is a testament to the power of the creator economy and the potential it holds. We are delighted to now invite on stage Nas Daily and save up all the questions you ever wanted to ask him because there will be time for that right after. Nas, the stage is all yours.
I got you a gift. Everybody gives flowers, so this is a gift for all of you guys. I'll put it right here. Hi, everybody. How are you? Everybody, stand up for a second. Stand up. Let's get some energy flowing. Okay, great. Just shake your legs, shake your legs, shake your hands. Okay, you can sit down. You can sit down. We're going to be here for like 40 minutes, 45 minutes, so we're going to be friends. Okay? Great. Now, before I start talking and showing my slides and all that stuff, I like to know, who am I talking to? Who am I talking at? So if you can just do me a quick favor and just like raise your hand and just like in 2 sentences, tell me, who are you, what do you do, and why are you here? That guy's excited. Stand up, scream. A what? An equity dealer. Oh, wow. Okay, do you make enough money? Stand up. Energy expert, very cool. Go. Oh, super cool. Welcome, welcome. And who else wants to go? Go. Stand up, scream. How to do influencing. I don't know how to do influencing. I can teach you how to do content creation. If it influences, that's good. If it doesn't, we tried. And let's do 2 more. Go. What kind of content creator? Fashion and lifestyle. Okay, very cool. Go. You work for a Japanese EV charging company. Do you speak Japanese? You speak Japanese? Oh. I would have been shocked. Okay, and let's do last one. That guy. Yes! I love that. And what kind of social activism do you do?
I do transformation with my young friends. Giving back to the society whatever I have learned in my life.
Okay, so like education.
Education, community development, livelihood programs, skilling, all these things.
Love that. And why are you here?
And I spent 20 years in Odisha working with the tribal communities there.
Amazing. And why are you here?
I'm here to learn more about the summit which is taking place here, which I take
Check.
to my young people.
Love that. Welcome. On that bombshell, let us begin. Thank you, everybody, for inviting me. Thank you, NDTV World, for inviting me. Today, I decided to share with you something I have not shared before. So this is the first time I'm ever giving this speech. If there's any mistakes, you know who to blame. Okay, so first of all, if you can show the slides. Today, I decided to talk about the 5 lessons I learned from 8 years of building NAS Daily. Now, a lot of you call me Nas. Even the moderators introduce me as Nas. My name is not Nas. My name is No Sire. Like yes, sire, no sire. Yes, sire, no sire. It's a very complicated name. NAS Daily is the company that we built. Who am I first? I'll talk about my story first, and then I'll talk about what I learned, and then we'll open some space for questions. So, I was born and raised in Israel as a Palestinian. This is a background I do not recommend. You guys spent the last 10 hours talking about Israel and Hamas and Gaza and Palestine. So clearly this is a very complicated background. And since I was 12, I said I must escape. I must escape the village and go somewhere else to another village in America. Like everybody wants to go to America, so I decided to go to America and become a student. I applied to Harvard and I got very lucky and got in with a scholarship. I studied economics and a bit of computer science. Then I became an engineer. You know, like what they say in India, become an engineer, then do what you love. So I became an engineer and I worked at PayPal. And turns out I was a terrible engineer. And so I decided to eventually start doing what I love after 2 years of working at PayPal. Great. Now, I asked myself a simple question when I was an engineer. When are you going to die? Turns out there's an answer to this. And 2 people know the answer. God and Google. And if you type on Google, when are you going to die, it says, average life expectancy for men in America, 76. I was like, oh shit. Back then, I was 25. 25 out of 76 was 32%. I was 1/3 dead on average. And when you do the math, it should be 25. 25 out of 76, 32%. I was 1/3 dead on average, and I have not done what I love yet. And I think a lot of people here can relate. In America, it's 76. In Japan, the life expectancy is 84. I think in India, it's like 65 or something. So it really depends on where you live. Either way, I wanted to spend the remaining 2/3 of my life doing things that I love. And that is creating content. 8 years ago, I had this one bet. You know, you're an equities trader. Where's that guy? Where's that guy? Equities trader. You bet all the time on which stock is going to go up, which stock is going to go down. And my bet 8 years ago was, what's going to change in society? What's going to change in society? 8 years ago, I said videos are going to change society and social media are going to change society. Now that sounds simple, but 8 years ago, there was no TikTok, there was no Instagram video, there was no Facebook video, it was just YouTube. That was 8 years ago only. So I said, let's make videos and put them on social media and do it every single day. Never miss a day, not even once, no matter what happens. That's 2.7 years of daily work. Even if I was sick, even if I had to go to the hospital, even if my mom went to the hospital, I had a plan on how to make a video that day. I took this so seriously. Every video was 1 minute long. Nobody has 45 minutes to listen to me talk. So I don't know what the hell you guys are doing here. But on the internet, you only have 1 minute. And so we made these videos, and 1,000 videos later, 1,000 days later, it blew up. It became one of the biggest social media pages in the world, with over 70 million followers and 30 billion views with a B. That is, thank you. To be clear, the population of planet Earth is 7 billion. So it's as if every person on the planet watched 5 videos. Now, of course, it's not like that, but it is hundreds of millions of people that have followed the Nas Daily language, the Nas Daily, in 14 different languages. Nas Daily Spanish, Nas Daily Hindi, Nas Daily Japanese, Nas Daily Arabic, Nas Daily Russian, Nas Daily English that you know. And this became Nas Daily. Now we are a company of 100 people based in Singapore, Dubai, New York, and some in India. And today, I decided to come and answer a simple question. Why the hell did Nas Daily succeed? Why me? Why now? Why this? And how can you? No questions yet, bro. Let me finish. The equities guy really wants a question. Why did Nas Daily succeed? This is what I want to try to answer. And I'm going to answer this through 5 lessons that I learned in the last 8 years. Are you with me? Great. Okay. So the first thing I discovered over the last 8 years is that the individual has incredible power. The power of the individual is unbelievable. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that people love people. People don't love objects. People don't love flowers. They don't love institutions. They don't love things. People love people. And when it comes to media, this is especially true. Look at this example. Tucker Carlson is an individual. Fox News is an institution. When Tucker Carlson left Fox News lost millions of followers. He built his own new channel on Twitter or X and built his own Fox News because people love people. There is no affiliation, there's no affinity necessarily to Fox News, but people love the guy. And so that is so interesting when you think about content. When you put a human in front of the video talking, you get 10x more engagement. No matter how annoying the presenter is, like me, when you add a human, people love the human or hate the human. But at the end of the day, you want a human. If Nas Daily was just a voiceover with text on screen, I wouldn't be here today. So the main reason that Nas Daily succeeded is people love people. Now, how does this apply to you? Think about your company that you're building, or your media organization, or your project, whatever it is. Put a person in front of it, either the customer, or the CEO, or the founder, or the investor, or the employee. Elevate the status of people. And if you look at this, this is Nas Daily's Facebook page. Look at how many people there are. The mission statement, bring people together. The cover photo, a lot of people. The profile picture, a lot of people. For God's sake, do you even know what Nas means? People. Nas means people in Arabic. Raise your hand if you speak Arabic. Do you agree? Is it correct? Does it mean people in Arabic? Great. It's not fake news. Nas means people in Arabic. And that is the main reason why it succeeded. Now, the second lesson I learned is the power of packaging. And this is so underrated. Nobody talks about this, and they should. Packaging. I'm not talking about Amazon packaging. I'm talking about something that will shock you. I'll give you a real-life example. This is a CNN article about something that is important. China is celebrating a decade of the Belt and Road Initiative. Everybody here knows the Belt and Road Initiative, right? Essentially, China goes around, builds a port, builds a street, builds a highway, builds a bridge in different countries around Asia to build a new Silk Road. Now, a lot of journalists covered this topic in text format in a very academic fashion. How many views does this article get? 30,000 on average. Now, what happens if you take the same idea, the same message, but you change the package? What if we say, instead of Belt and Road Initiative, decade, blah, 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 what if we call it the Chinese money trap? It's about the debt policy, okay? What if we show a person showing money? What if we go to the country like Sri Lanka and like talk about the port that's there? And what if we make it super simple to understand and turn it into a video and put it on social media? What do you get? This is what you get. 52 million views, 64,000 comments, 344,000 likes, just in English. Together, this simple video got more than 75 to 100 million views globally. So much so that the United States government reached out to me and they were like, we want more of these videos. I was like, I didn't make it because of that. We didn't end up working with them, to be clear, but even governments started to notice this. It's the same message, different packaging. So what does that tell you? In 2024, we should all adopt and embrace and hug and kiss videos. Forget pictures. Forget text. If you want to reach the masses, you gotta do it in 24 frames per second. If anything, we live life in video. Our eyes see in 24 or 30 frames per second. So why are we not communicating per video? If my speech today was just text, 2 of you would read it. The remaining would not read it. But because my talk today is in video, you're paying attention. So I cannot stress the importance of videos. But the third thing I cannot stress enough is the power of social media. So, where are we now? If you want to build the next NAS Daily for your company, for your organization, for your nation, or for yourself, remember the power of the individual, correct? Then the power of packaging. So focus on individual, package it in video, and then social media, the power of social media. Today, we live in a world that is incredibly scary because one video can create a terrible political revolution. One video in one day can cause civil unrest. One video in one day, or one video in one day can create a health revolution. The question is, which video is it going to be? And who's going to make it? That is how powerful social media is. It's so powerful that when I met Prime Minister Modi, the first thing he told me was, social media is incredibly powerful and good, but dangerous at the same time. I was like, of course, yes, I agree. I'm talking about this tomorrow. It's so powerful, but it's so new. And this is what most of us do not understand, is how new social media is. Your industry, you're an equities trader, correct? You're in the finance industry. We've been doing finance for at least 1,500 years, okay? We've been paying each other. We've had currencies. We've had corporations. We've had trading, commerce for 1,500 years. We've had enough times to understand it. Social media, we've only really had for 15 years. 1% of the time. So that tells you that we don't know what's going to happen, and we should all embrace social media now. We see this already in India. We see social media actually changing India already. I'm going to give you a positive example. This is an example of organ donation rates because of one video. One video on Instagram by my friend Rivant has taken organ donation rates by 5x, if not 7x. because of social media. We've known organ donations is a thing for decades. But it took one video by one individual in the right package on the right social media platform to make this go vertical. It's the same idea, just different packaging. So where are we now? Individual, video packaging, social media, and now the fourth one, the power of, you got it, consistency. Everybody thinks you can become famous in a day. Well, the truth is, Rome was not built in a day. In that case, you cannot be famous in a day. You cannot build a startup in a day. You cannot build a brand or a company in a day. It just doesn't happen. Let's take an example of Nas Daily. The first 100 videos of Nas Daily, they failed. The second 200 videos of Nas Daily also failed. It took me 271 videos to succeed. I was averaging 5,000 to 10,000 views on day 270. And on day 271, we got 30 million views. 10,000, 30 million in one day. But that could never have happened if it wasn't for consistency. If I made a mistake on day 260, I could fix it in 24 hours on day 261. When I make a mistake on day 130, I fixed it on day 131. It took me 24 hours to fix a mistake. Now, think about it. If you make a documentary every 6 months, you make a mistake, for your next documentary, it'll take you another 6 months to correct it. So you have 2 shots to succeed in a year. I have 365. And that is the difference between a documentary maker versus a daily video maker. 1,000 daily videos, that's how much it took me to build a brand. The power of consistency is exponential. So my advice to everybody here, try not just to focus on quality, also focus on quantity. Life is a game of quality and quantity. When you have quality and quantity, you succeed. It's as simple as that. A lot of us focus on quality, but there's this concept called Parkinson's Law. It says, work expands to the time allowed for it. I'm going to repeat this again so everybody understands it. Work expands to the time allowed for it. If I give you 10 days to make a video, you'll make a video in 10 days. If I give you 5 days to make a video, you'll make the same video in 5 days. The same quality. There is no difference. So that's why you got to shrink the time allowed for tasks, and the quality will not suffer. This has been the DNA of Nas Daily. 24 hours to make a video, no more. We repeated the same message 1,000 times every 24 hours, and that's how it started to grow. So where are we now? The power of individual, the power of packaging, the power of consistency. Oh, wait. Oh, my God. Even I forgot it. The power of, the power of individual, the power of packaging, the power of social media, and the power of consistency. What's the fifth power? This is specific to NDTV World. It's called the power of India. Now, I would say this in front of your face and behind your back. I'm not just saying this in front of you, but I truly believe this. Life is a game of numbers. The world of content is a game of numbers. Simple as that. Number of followers, number of views, number of impact, number of videos, numbers. Okay? And when it comes to numbers, India wins every game. Okay? Like for some reason in India, there are no small numbers. Nobody has 10 followers. Like the minimum is like 1 million and above. In India, nobody has like 1 million votes. It's like 700 million votes. There's no like 10 customers. It's 10,000 customers. So it's almost always that India has the law of large numbers on its side. But what does that mean? That means there is no social media without India. Ask any content creator right now in America, in Denmark, in Germany, in Israel, in Singapore, what's your number one country? If you make content in English, what's your number one country? Odds are it's India, simply because of the number of numbers. So this is important because now we can leverage this massive number of people to tell the story of India through social media. Out of the 1.34 billion people, there are at least 30 million NAS dailies. You know, the best export, the best way to build soft power, and the most affordable way to build soft power is through content. And it's also through food, like Indian food in America or Thai food around the world. Yes, you can build soft power through food, but with India, you can build soft power through content. And it's not just Bollywood. It's through Facebook videos, Instagram videos, YouTube videos, from India to the world. This is why I am so excited about the things that NDTV World is doing. This is India's attempt at building its own image and distribution and soft power to the world through content. And I really cannot wait to see it succeed because the world needs it. So, going back to my original question, why the hell did NAS Daily succeed? Why me? Why now? Why this? And I think by now everybody knows. NAS Daily was an individual, not an institution, an individual who focused on storytelling in video format. Never wrote an article in my life. Focused on storytelling with video format, positive stories. I uploaded everything on social media. I never touched TV, never touched Netflix, never touched any of that stuff, and they never touched me either. And uploaded on social media, and I did it 1,000 times, and some people think I'm from India. So we got all 5 powers in one, and that has been the key success of NAS Daily. How does this relate to you? If you're looking to build an organization, if you're looking to build a media organization, if you're looking to build a company, if you're looking to build a product, if you're looking to build a country, you need all 5 powers and you need to adopt it. That, I believe, is the formula to change the world and build your own version of NAS Daily. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope this helps.
Thanks, Nas, for such a great session. And now we'll go to Nas for the same. Of course. We fondly would love to call you Nas as well. Nasir, thanks a lot. And now, as I said, we'll go to Nas. And let's hear from you. If you have any question, please raise your hand. And we will start with
finance guy.
Finance guy, yes.
Good evening, sir.
But before you ask a question, I have one request, guys, one request. Make the question hard, difficult, sensitive, borderline inappropriate. Okay? Do not ask what's your favorite color.
Yeah.
Is your question hard?
Yeah.
Is it sensitive?
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
We're all going to pay attention. Go.
Sir, tell me one thing. What is the emotional attachment of social media? Actually, I saw Speed had don't knowledge about cricket. When he started to talking about Virat Kohli, then he got so fame in India. So what is connection of emotion in social media?
Okay, that was not a hard question or sensitive, but what is the question?
I think so. He's talking about that. He's talking about a creator, iShowSpeed.
Oh, iShowSpeed.
Right?
Okay.
Are you talking about iShowSpeed? Yeah, he's talking about iShowSpeed.
Okay.
So he's mentioning that he, in one of his videos, talked about Virat Kohli, and in his words, iShowSpeed doesn't have knowledge of cricket. So why is he talking about Virat Kohli and garnering views? Is that what your question is?
He got a lot of fame in India.
Got it. Clear. Well, it goes back to the first thing I said. People love people. You know, you could talk about anything, and I'll listen to you if I love you. You know, I mean, if I have a kid and my kid is telling me about, physics, even though he knows nothing about physics, I'll listen. I love the kid. You don't follow NAS Daily because you want travel videos. You follow NAS Daily because you like the style and you like the individual. And that is the beauty of content creation. You know, when it comes to careers and a job, when I was an engineer, I was an engineer. You know, I wanted to talk to the CEO about product. They were like, what are you doing? You're an engineer. I wanted to talk about the mobile app. They said, what are you doing? You're an engineer in the back end. So you always stay in your lane. When it comes to content, you don't need to stay in your lane. You can like literally jump lanes like an island changes, you know, weather. You can one day you can talk about cricket, the next day you can talk about politics, the next day you can talk about your girlfriend. It doesn't matter. And so that's exactly what Nas Daily does. Yesterday's video was about Mundra Port. Tomorrow's video is going to be about, the last week was about matcha in Japan. It doesn't matter. Next question.
I think he's a Virat Kohli fan. That's why I think he got hurt there. Yes, let's go to this lady here. Yes, please start with your name and your question.
Sure. I'm Vibhuti Arora. Hi.
Hi.
So,
is the question sensitive and hard?
I think it's going to be a little hard.
Good.
What if I am consistent, but the algorithm changes? What do you do then?
So there is truth to that question. The algorithm does change, but it doesn't always change negatively. Every time we hear the word algorithm change, we think bad. For example, Nas Daily on day 635, I was averaging, I think like 150,000 views, 200,000 views per video. The algorithm changed. The next day, I started to average 1 million views per video because Facebook changed the algorithm to favor videos. So algorithm change happens, but it's not always bad. What I think what's going to happen in the future is algorithms want content that gives meaningful social connections, content that's positive. Instagram does not like politics. Facebook does not like politics. Politics provided a headache to Zuckerberg. He doesn't want it. So if you don't make political videos on Instagram, if you make fun videos that bring people together, odds are the algorithm change is in your favor. I'm going to guess the reason why the videos are not working is because you're focusing on quantity, not yours, but somebody.
I did not say the videos are not working. I will rephrase. What if you're consistent, the videos are working, the algorithm is changing, how do you keep up in your experience?
Yeah, I mean, when I started Nas Daily, the videos were landscape. Then at some point, the videos became vertical. Now I used to shoot like this, now I shoot like this. Everything I do, right? I mean, you have to always change. The first 3 seconds of a video used to be text, now it's nothing. Now I get into it straight. Every 6 months, you have to change. If you don't change, you're dead. Simple as that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll come to you, and I think I'm going to pick one person, and then I think Nasaya will pick the next person. This is our in-house NDTV person. Yeah,
is the question hard and sensitive?
Yeah, a bit, I guess.
Go ahead.
You decide. So, hi, Nasir, I'm Kshitij. So my question is, you were talking about numbers. You said life is a game of numbers. So talking about numbers, since April 9th, 2016, when you left your software engineering job in New York and flew to Kenya to start making videos, it's been exactly...
I see you read the Wikipedia page.
No, your own video.
Okay.
So it's been exactly 3,118 days today.
That's correct. I actually know that number. You're right.
Yeah. So simple question. I mean, what's your plan for the next 3,118 days?
That's a very good question. Okay, that's a good, hard and sensitive question. So the last 8 years has been about building content and being a creator. I think the next 8 years is about being an entrepreneur. So my biggest issue right now with the content world is that if I die today, Nas Daily dies tomorrow. That's a terrible feeling. Same if you're a lawyer. If you're a lawyer and you die today, no one is going to do law practice tomorrow. I'm only interested in solving this thing. How can I make something bigger than myself and my life? For that, I have to build a company. So my next goal for the next 8 years is to build a 1,000-person company. So I have 1,000 days in videos. Now it's a 1,000-person company. And we have multiple products. We have a hotel in Dubai. We have a technology platform, Nas.io. We have a social media agency with brands and governments. We have an academy. We have a summit. We have like 5 product lines. And together, they are the things that will continue to live even if I die. As you can tell, I think a lot about death.
Thank you.
For the question.
For the next question, we're going to do the same smile task. Please raise your hand, show your brightest smile. I want Nasir to pick one of them.
Okay, she really thinks it's hot and sensitive.
Lovely. Okay,
You better
we'll go to
deliver.
her. Please start with your name, ma'am, and then the question.
Borderline inappropriate too.
Oh, wow. Everybody's listening now.
Yeah. You were talking about positive stories, how important for you is to create responsible stories, especially when you are a role model for a lot of youth, how right it is to put a breakup story on video. Especially when everybody is watching you. Will youngsters mimic this? And it's very insensitive. That's my question. I like to hear that.
Thank you. So let me give context to everybody. I've never been asked that question. Thank you. So I had a 6-year relationship, and everything in my life is public. How much money I make, who I date, what I do, everything is public. There are no secrets. And you know, my girlfriend was a big part of the videos, and then at some point we broke up. And then I said, instead of making, you know, a post saying we broke up, we're gonna make a 13-minute long video. And we're gonna tell the world why we broke up and what happened, and we're gonna do it with no secrets. And by the way, the video made me look terrible. The video made me look like an asshole. And I did not care because authenticity is the only thing that matters. Now, the question is, why do you make a breakup? These are sensitive things. And by the way, after that video, thousands of other relationships also broke up. And that's a good thing. And so the way I view it is this. In life, we do a lot of things. We spend 10 hours every day at work just to make money. And for some reason, we don't share how much money we make with the world. It's a private thing. We don't talk enough about money. We don't talk enough about relationship. We don't talk enough about religion even. So sometimes there's so many sensitive things that we hide as if they don't exist. Well, flash news, they do exist. And I wanted Nas Daily to talk about that. That's number one. Number two is, the way I live my life can influence others to live their life. So when I started making videos and succeeded, other people started to make videos and succeeded. I view my lessons, it is my responsibility, it's not something fluff. It is my responsibility to share everything I learn in my life in a video format on social media so others can learn from it because I am learning from it. So now I got a fitness challenge. I started to get really fit and work out every day. So I made videos about me being half naked, you know, to help others understand how to get fit. With relationship, same thing. With money, same thing. With religion, same thing. And guess what? Next month, I'm making another relationship video to announce a new relationship. Next question.
Lovely. Let's have next question. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Mugdha Mishra. I work with NDTV. I head their auto vertical. I have a two-part question. One is, we know algorithms support individual content creators. With that context, and that's going to be a challenge for you when you are making your company too, how does a brand like NDTV become bigger than where we are right now? Because algos don't support us. And this is the second time that I have faced this. I started another YouTube company earlier, which was also a media organization, and I was supporting that and heading that, and it always was a challenge to make it grow faster.
Yes.
Individuals who started with me went far ahead despite making the similar number of content and going all out for it. Now, the second part of this question is that as a news organization, we have a responsibility to show the truth. You talk about positive news, but we can't just show positive news.
Yes.
So these two factors just put us at such disadvantage.
Yes, it does.
And the third part is also the part that we cannot be too animated. In the sense, we also have a responsibility about showing things more seriously with more gravity. For example, I do auto content, and there are lots of content creators who are jumping off the roof or standing on the roof, but we don't want to do all that because there is a responsibility as a media organization that we have. So how do we handle all these challenges?
I love this question. That's a great question. That's a great question. Okay, there's 3 parts of your questions. I disagree with the last one, and I agree with the first 2. I'll talk about the last one. You said, we cannot show that we're having fun. Humans love to have fun. We are all humans at the end of it. We don't need to be stuck up with a suit and a tie and a neck and tie and all that stuff. Who said that this is how news should be told? We should always question our most basic assumptions. Who said that this is how news should be consumed? Even banks. Who said a bank should be physical? We used to build bank buildings, like really nice, big building, and it was like, it's supposed to instill trust. That's why bank buildings are big, so you can trust us with your money. But in today's world, banks are going digital. There is even no building. So let me finish this. So what I'm trying to say is, you can still transmit information without having to look and behave seriously. So I actually call Nas Daily a journalist in disguise. I'm a journalist in disguise. You saw the Chinese money trap video. That's journalism. That's journalism. I just do journalism 20% of the time. 20% of the time. 80% I'm just having fun. But 20% I'm doing real journalism. So I think we should always question our assumptions of how news should look like. Everybody here should look at Morning Brew in America because they're turning news into fun clips on social media that actually show you the news. By the way, Hollywood is entertainment, but it can also be educational. So number 1. Number 2 is, yes, it is hard for NDTV to grow as big as Mr. Beast or Nas Daily because you're an institution. That is why you have to double down on your anchors. Your anchors are your biggest asset. That's why the mission of NDTV should be to find the most talented individual, groom them, and put them in front of the camera. It's called PMF, not a product market fit, a personality market fit. You need to find personality market fits in India and put them on the screen. Some people, when you look at them, you just want to listen to them. Some people, no matter how much they try, they're just boring. So your job is to find more of the first one and less of the second one. Easy. And the second thing is, you said, we have to talk about the negative stuff. I agree. But you're also lucky because humans love negative stuff. So you actually have an advantage over me. If World War III happens now, do you think anybody will watch Nas Daily and go and, see me in Japan talk about matcha? They're going to go to you because you're talking about what's dangerous, what's coming at you. So that is an advantage that you can talk about negative stuff because it goes more viral than positive stuff. So that's my answer. Good luck.
For the next question, again, please raise your hands, and he'll be the one choosing. Again, you have a task at hand.
I choose. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
All right. Who has the hardest? I love the questions because they're really hard, so this is nice. Who has the hardest question? Most sensitive, inappropriate?
Can you scream yes at the loudest of your voice?
That guy. That guy seems excited. That guy.
Okay.
That table has like a lot of.
Go ahead. Please start with your name and then the question.
Hi, Nusser. This is a bit sensitive when you say. So, as you're a Israeli citizen of Palestinian origin.
Let's talk about that.
Do you think, it's just you can say it like yes or no, that the kind of success you have, and with a sort of political opinion, if you were more sort of had a different political opinion, you think you would have been successful this way? This is bit hypothetical, but yeah.
So you're saying, oh, that's a great question. So you're saying, did I succeed because of my political opinion? Right?
It's a hypothetical.
Yeah,
I mean,
hypothetical.
the
If I had
kind
a
of
different
you
political
have a different, it's well known. I saw the video you made, and
Yeah.
it's understandable. But I'm just saying on the flip side, if you had a different political opinion, if you're a sort of bit of activist and, because you come from the Palestinian community, would you have been this much successful?
So, my friend, I succeeded despite my political opinion, not because of it. And you have no idea how difficult it is because of this thing. So, Israel is 8 million people. The Muslim world is 1 billion people, okay? There's 200 million people in Indonesia, 200 million in Pakistan, 100 million in Egypt, 100 million in Libya and Tunisia, another 100 million in Bangladesh, 200 million in Bangladesh, right? If I just make what is popular, and I just be like, oh, yeah, free Palestine, I'm with everybody, then I would literally gain followers. I would succeed more. I would not need security. But that's not what I believe in. I believe that the truth is a little bit more nuanced, that it's not black and white. It's actually gray because, unfortunately, I spent 30 years studying and living this conflict. So somebody sitting in Pakistan or Indonesia telling me what to think about this conflict, I will not listen to it. And because of that, my political opinion, which I made very clear that we need 2 states for 2 people, but also we need to free Palestine from Hamas, from radical, from terrorism. I'm not for that at all. And I think Israel should exist. Every time I say the I word, which is Israel, I lose followers. Every time I say the I word, which is the country I'm from, I lose brand deals. So I succeeded despite being canceled more than 10 times because the videos are just so damn good that you're willing to listen to somebody from Israel even though you hate Israel so much.
Absolutely.
And the lesson here, I think for everybody is, there's this amazing picture of one guy standing and there's like 10,000 people and the guy says, you are all wrong. And I want everybody to think about this picture. You are all wrong. Think about this. What are you willing to stand in front of 10,000 people that disagree with you and tell them you are all wrong? What is something you deeply believe in that is deeply, deeply unpopular? And for me, it's the Israel and Palestine conflict. But for you, it's something else. For you, it's something else. And it is a great exercise for every single person sitting here. What is something you deeply believe in that everybody around you disagrees, yet for some reason you still believe in it? And I think that is what you should make videos about.
Hi, sir. My name is Osama, and you spoke about not looking towards Netflix and not looking towards TV for creating content.
You also didn't look at me, so.
But in case if Netflix looks towards you, or if TV looks towards you, would you be open to that idea, telling your story through those mediums?
That's a very good question. Not very hard, but I'll tell you how we think about it. It's all about numbers. So if a TV comes to me and says, I want you to spend 2 months of your life to create a travel show with us, and we're going to launch it on Discovery Channel, there are 2 questions I have to ask. How many people are watching this? How much money are you paying me for this? Okay? So the truth of the matter is, the views are going to be a lot less than social media, and the money is going to be a lot less than social media. So you're like, okay, well then, it makes no sense. It's all about opportunity cost. So at this point, we have so much attention on social media that it does not make sense to go to TV unless you get something like Netflix, which promises you 100 million views in, let's say, America. You're like, okay, America for me is strategic. 100 million is a large number. This is worth it. But for the average person, the average creator that's successful, TV is not the next step. Maybe Bollywood, but Bollywood promises you more attention. So Bollywood promises you 500 million views or 300 million views. For example, I actually was in a Bollywood movie. No one knows this. I was in a Bollywood movie. Does anybody know which Bollywood movie I was in? No. Okay, Janu. I was in Okay Janu for 10 seconds. And actually, it was like a 1 day of work. This was like 7 years ago. They didn't know Nas Daily. One day of work, but then he got like 200 million views. Bollywood makes sense. Hollywood makes sense. TV, not so sure.
With that, we've come to the end of this Q&A session. So give it up for Nasir once again.
Thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed.
But we'd love to hear your closing
Let's take
remarks. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to say, thank you, everybody, for listening. Did you enjoy? Bye-bye, India. Thank you for having me. Great. Thank you so much.
Well, in a world confronted with unprecedented challenges and growing geopolitical rifts, is it time for a new, reformed, and more balanced international view? What are the sort of propositions by Global South that are being put forward on the global scale, and are they necessarily at odds with the ones of the West?
Well, to talk us about the rise of the Global South, we would like to call on stage Mr. Amitabh Kant, India's G20 Sherpa.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please ask you to have your seats? We've got possibly the best speaker this evening with us right here, Amitabh Kant joining us. And we've got a lot to talk about. So we'll just request everybody to be seated, and we'll get started in just a few moments. Well, tonight we shift our focus to a seismic geopolitical shift, the rising prominence of India and the broader global south. In the last decade, India has emerged not just as an economic powerhouse, but as a strategic player on the world stage, with a GDP growth rate that outpaces many developed nations. India's digital revolution, space prowess, and our pharma industries are making headlines around the world. But it's not just about economics or our cultural exports through Bollywood, yoga, or our vast diaspora, which are influencing global culture like never before. Parallel to India's rise is the rise of the global south, and that encompasses Africa, Latin America, parts of Asia. They're all part of redefining our role in this. These regions are leveraging their demographic dividends, natural resources, and increasing tech adoption to stake a larger stake in global affairs. From climate initiatives in Brazil to tech hubs in Nairobi, the global south is no longer just at the receiving end of global policy, but is actively shaping it. We've got Amitabh Kant with us, the Sherpa of India Sherpa at the G20, former Niti Aayog CEO. Thanks very much, Dr. Kant, very much for being with us. When we use the words India century, what does that imply?
Well, it implies that India is the only country in the world which is today the 5th largest economy, which in the next 2.5 years will be the 3rd largest economy in the world, growing at about 8.2% last year. But it's the only country which is today making about 35 kilometers of road and 12 kilometers of railway lines per day, which does about 50% of the real-time fast payments in the world, which has done 31x of solar generation in the last 7 years, which is actually, if you look at it in terms of airport construction, makes about close to 9 airports and about 3 metros a year. Nowhere else in the world is this happening. The population scale impact at low prices, what India is doing, it's truly India's, not merely India's decade, but India's century, because the demographics are very young. the rest of the world is aging, but India is getting very, very young and will keep getting young.
In fact, that's my next question. In terms of India's demographic dividend, that's probably the biggest benefit that we have. The numbers we have are that 65% of our population is under 35 years of age. And that's wonderful because that means there's a real future if we are able to employ them and if we are able to skill them appropriately. So as we talk about demographic dividend, how important is it for us to talk about reskilling?
That's the most important issue, Vishnu, because India can't grow only on the back of services. India needs to become a manufacturing nation. 17.5% of your GDP comes from manufacturing. You need to take it to 25%. You need to urbanize because 500 million people are going to get into the process of urbanization. In the next 5 decades, that means India's challenge is to create 2 Americas in the next 5 decades. You need to enhance your agriculture productivity. The number of people dependent on agriculture at close to 45% is very, very high. So you need to fire on all cylinders: services, manufacturing, urbanization, agriculture, all of them. And for manufacturing and urbanization, you need to provide skills. You need to get them into completely new areas of growth: artificial intelligence, machine learning, quantum computing. And that's why India has rolled out these new missions in all these areas, including a mission for semiconductors and a mission for green hydrogen. All this is critical for India.
We'll talk about these missions because they're absolutely essential to this conversation. But it just strikes me that when we speak about Atmanirbharta in India, it doesn't necessarily have to be just a stereotype or a cliche or another way of saying make in India. It's qualitatively different for a couple of reasons, and one which we don't talk about is that today in manufacturing, we can talk about the defense sector. We had Baba Kalyani here yesterday. We are making in India, but we are also making for the world. Not only are we making for the world, we are able to produce items, whether it is pharma, whether it is defense items, to the same standard at a cost-effective price and as well as anybody in the world. So Atmanirbharta isn't just about India, it's about India and the world.
So when we talk about Atmanirbharta, it's about being an integral part of global value chains. You can't grow at rates of 9 to 10% per annum, year after year for 3 decades or more. That's what you need to do. So we must understand that when we're talking about becoming a Viksit Bharat, we are talking about becoming a $30 trillion economy in 2047. Growing from 4 trillion to 30 trillion means that your GDP has to grow 9 times. Mm-hmm. Your per capita income has to grow 8 times. And your manufacturing has to grow 16 times. That's the challenge. And I think for overcoming that challenge, India needs to really become a very integral part of value chains and penetrate global value chains. You know, you need to export in a very big way. And that's why this big thrust on production-linked incentive scheme, which India has done, that is, you grow big, bigger, biggest, and then, because you need 10,000 large manufacturing companies here to penetrate global markets. And you need size and scale of manufacturing to penetrate. And you need 12 states, 12 Indian states to grow at 10% plus. And that has to happen. So you need ambition and hunger in states to grow rapidly, and you need large companies to penetrate global markets. That's the challenge.
Let's talk about the semiconductor mission, because one of the key focal points in that is we must have resilient supply chains. We cannot just depend on Taiwan. We cannot just depend on Japan or ensure that China has a dominance in high-tech manufacture in certain areas. If we are to realize our potential in semiconductor manufacture in India, how will that translate into growth for the Indian economy?
So, Vishnu, let me first tell you that, the global supply chains across the world are badly disrupted. They're disrupted because the United States has just imposed 100% duty on imports from China on electric vehicles. it's imposed 50% duty on batteries, on solar imports. It has imposed this because it says, and rightly so, it says that China subsidizes manufacturing, government supports it, and therefore they're doing extra production to penetrate global markets, and that is why China is controlling 70% of the EV market, it's controlling 75% of the solar market, it's controlling about 74% of the battery market, and therefore we must put an end to this oversupply in the global markets. But US is also responsible for outsourcing all its manufacturing to China in the last 3-4 decades. And therefore, global supply chains are disrupted. And you should read a book by a guy called Chris Miller on the chips war. And what it says is, if China was to annex Taiwan tomorrow, then it'll control automobiles, it'll control batteries, it'll control defense, it'll control aerospace, because the whole world will be running on chips. And that's why, for countries to become totally dependent on chip manufacturing from abroad is a dangerous proposition. And therefore, India must create its own ecosystem, because we are a very large consumer of vehicles, we are a very large consumer of mobiles. Every Indian has a smartphone. You need chips for that. And that's why one of the most dynamic measures the government has taken is to roll out the semiconductor mission of 76,000 crores, both in terms of design, in terms of fab, in terms of fabless, and in terms of chip manufacturing. And that, to my mind, will be transformational in the days to come.
When we talk about India's digital future, you can look at it in dozens of different ways. Digital commerce, ease of living, etc., etc. I want to firstly focus on 6G being a reality around the world and in India in a finite amount of time. How will the induction or the introduction of 6G technology and greater bandwidth available to all telecom manufacturers translate into a new reality for us, which will again help us economically?
No, so that's critical, because we were late in 2G, 3G, 4G. We just about caught up in 5G, and we should be ahead of the rest of the world in 6G. Why it's important is because India's model of digitization is very different from the rest of the world. If you look at the western part of the world, most technological innovation have been carried out by big tech. It's Google, it's Meta, it's Apple, it's Amazon. And in China, by Tencent and Alibaba. What India has done differently is that it created the digital identity layer, and on top of which you allowed private sector to compete. So Paytm competes with Amazon Pay, Phone Pay competes with Google Pay. Everybody's competing in the marketplace. So we created what we call as open source, as open API, globally interoperable model. And during G20, the world said that this is the model to be followed, because our data is held by individual citizens. Your data is controlled by you under the Digital Empowerment Protection Architecture, whereas in the West, all the data is controlled by Google and by Meta, and in China by Tencent and Alibaba. And therefore, the ownership of the data is with you. And that, to my mind, is going to be the future of the world. And open source will be the future of the world. Now, when 6G comes in, it'll enable you to do much more work, much rapid work on urbanization, on water supply, on improving, all this talk of AI is all about large language models right now. Every day, a new large language models. But AI should impact the lives of the citizens. So you need AI for improving learning outcomes, for improving health outcomes. You need it for improving nutritional standards. That's what AI should be used to create a better society and to improve the quality of life of citizens and to improve human development. Not to create just large language models which can be in conflict tomorrow because of the ethics and because of the assumptions on which they are based. And therefore, it's very critical that we divert AI for transforming lives of citizens.
Will AI take jobs?
Well, AI will bring in new kinds of jobs. AI will bring in completely new scales of jobs. AI is inevitable. Machine learning is inevitable. And therefore, we need to create many more skilled people in many of these areas. You need new data scientists, you need AI engineers, you need machine learning scientists, and that is what many of our IITs are doing today.
What is impressive and not really spoken about is the Indian AI story. The fact that you've got young software and other engineers working on an Indian AI model for an Indian requirement. Can you tell us about that?
So you have many young startups. You have the story of Sarvam. You have the story of Perplexity. All these are young Indian AI companies which are doing transformational work. And I think much like we have created a model of digital public infrastructure, which has been transformational. I mean, all this, nowhere in the world does it happen that 50% of the real-time fast payments happen in India. You know, 51% of the fast payment happened in India. China was next with 22%. Nowhere in the world does this happen that 30% of the stock market is controlled by young startups. Nowhere in the world does this happen that you can get an insurance policy in 1 minute. When I was a young officer, it used to take me 7 months. So we do transactions from identity to credit to fast payments to insurance to stock market in 30 seconds to 1 minute on the mobile, on the go. And therefore, what you will see is a different scale of transformation on AI from India. And I think increasingly AI will be open sourced.
When we talk about the G20 process and digital inclusion, how has India offered not just our knowledge, but our actual digital governance models to nations of the G20? And how is that, you know, the potential of that absolutely enormous? Let's talk about the global south now.
So the only way, you know, in the next 4 decades, according to both IMF and World Bank, 3/4, and it's very important because I see a lot of young people here, 3/4 of the growth in the world is going to come from the global south. You know, this year, if you look at it, IMF says that the global growth is going to be 3.2%. The developed countries' growth is going to be 1.8%. The developing countries' growth is going to be 4.4%. So in the coming years, all the growth is going to come from the global south. And it's going to come from global south because the demographics are young in India, Asia, and in Africa. The population is aging in America, the population is aging in Europe, but the population is extremely young in India and Africa, and therefore all the growth is going to come from here. Now, if all the growth is going to come from here, then you need the use of technology, you need the restructuring of financial institutions, both World Bank and IMF, the international financial architecture, which was designed for the post-World War II, has to be reconfigured for the global south. And that is what India is trying to do. And in the G20, India's key role, the Prime Minister Modi's key role, was to make African Union a member of G20 and make this into G21. That was his key role. He made it G21. And by doing this, he took the G20. G20 used to be just 76% of the global population. He took it to 90%, making it very inclusive.
India's space economy. We live in a times when we've got the Elon Musks of the world doing incredible work, let's face it. There is a lot of money to be made in space. There is genuine science to be followed. Do you believe that ISRO needs to grow faster and be more international in terms of commerce and its vision and its ambition?
No, I don't think, you know, ISRO needs to just be a facilitator and a catalyst and allow the young startups of India to do all these launches, rocket launches, use the technology for ISRO has done its path-breaking work, but now it needs to allow a lot of all the launches, all the satellites from across the world must be launched from India. That should be the objective. Much like what many of Indian startups are doing today, India should really be India has done exceedingly well in the space sector. One of the great things India has done, the Prime Minister has done, is to open up the space sector, open up the drone sector, open up the geospatial sector, and all these sectors have been opened up for young startups to do path-breaking work.
We haven't focused on the clean energy transition. One of the big concerns is that we know the technology which is available and the fuels which are available, but we aren't quite at the right price point when it comes to green hydrogen, when it comes to other new forms as well. Even batteries have come down in cost, but perhaps not as much as we would like. So 2 questions. 1, green hydrogen. Secondly, the cost of batteries coming down even further.
So Vishnu, India's the only G20 country which has achieved its Paris commitment 9 years ahead of schedule. It has done 200 gigawatt of renewables. It brought down the price of renewable from 24 rupees to 1 rupee 99 paisa. Then it bought 400 million LED bulbs and brought down the price to just 15% of the original price by the sheer size and scale of India. Then it went in for an electric bus tender for 6 cities, about 6,000 buses, and it demonstrated that actually electric buses can cost, the tender demonstrated that electric buses will be cheaper than combustion fuel buses, than the diesel buses. So what India did in all these cases was the size and scale to bring down, and many economists and Bill Gates also said that when you move from fossil fuel to clean fuel, the world has to pay a green premium. India demonstrated that you don't have to pay a green premium, use your size and scale of India, you can do it at a green discount. No other country has done it what India has done. And, we import fossil fuel worth 180 billion. What the Prime Minister said is that by 2047, when India becomes 100, we should be an exporter of clean energy. That means use renewable. You're climatically blessed. You use renewables, crack water, produce green hydrogen, and become the largest exporter of green hydrogen, become the biggest exporter of green hydrogen, and become the largest manufacturer of electrolyzer. The cost of green hydrogen right now is $4.5 per kilogram. In America, because of weather condition, it is $7.5. So America subsidizes $3 extra. We don't have to do that much of subsidization because the climatic conditions are good. Our challenge is that from $4.5 by 2030, we'll bring it down to $1 per kilogram. Use the size and scale of India to bring it down from 4.5 to $1 to become the biggest producer and exporter of green hydrogen. That is what India will achieve.
One final question, and in a sense, it goes back to how we started, the India century. The India century can also be premised on fundamental problems which exist in the world today. Structural changes. If you look at the economy of the United Kingdom, the economy of Europe, if you look at the fact that there is a war which is raging, if you look at the fact that West Asia is in crisis, is this an opportunity for India?
So look around the world, there are 3 big challenges. Big power conflict is right center stage in Europe. Europe was responsible for World War I. Europe was responsible for World War II. And you are seeing a conflict there for the last 3 years. 45,000 people have died in Europe. 350,000 people have died in Middle East. Middle East is up in flames. And second, global value chains are disrupted. Third is the emergence of new force of artificial intelligence, machine learning, huge enhancement of production productivity, but you need international cooperation to have some pro-innovation regulations on that. To my mind, this is a huge, huge opportunity for India in all these 3 areas of growth. This is going to be not only India's decade, but this is going to be India's century.
Well, there you have it. You've heard it from Amitabh Kant, passionate in everything that he speaks about, and he backs it up with a great deal of data. This is an incredible opportunity for India to actually make our mark. The fundamentals are there. They're staring us in the face, from space to clean energy transition, to so many aspects of our economy that he's touched upon, and indeed premised on strong governance, can take India to a level which perhaps we can only, or we did once dream about. It can be a reality. As always, Amitabh Kant, a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you very much, Vishnu.
Thank you.
It was a great pleasure.